Hi everyone, welcome back to X10 Manhwa. Today, we are recapping a story called Magic Level, All Attributes Sage. Let's get started. Our boy Minato wakes up completely dazed and confused, finding himself in a totally unfamiliar room. He has no clue what the hell is going on. He looks in the mirror and sees a stranger with black hair staring back, wondering where his signature silver locks went. Before Minato can even process this, a doctor and nurse burst into the hospital room. After running a few checks, the doctor is absolutely stunned. The injuries from Minato's car accident have completely vanished. It's like they were healed by some kind of holy magic. Yeah, it was holy magic, Minato thinks. But what the hell is this about a car accident? Minato asks the doctor if his mana is depleted, but the doc just looks at him like he's grown a second head. He tries to explain that he was just fighting monsters during the Great Cataclysm, which only makes the doctor and nurse more concerned. They're probably thinking, did this kid get cooked in the hospital? The doc just sighs and asks for his name and the current year, Ichikami Minato. And it's around 1970, right? The doctor's head starts spinning. This kid's got some serious side effects. Your name is Kusanagi Minato, and the year is 2022. Now it's Minato's turn to be completely floored. Kusanagi Minato, the year 2022? There's no way these two are lying. He glances over at the TV, it's impossibly thin, and the picture is crystal clear. The calendar on the wall confirms it, 2022. And that little device the nurse is scrolling on, he's never seen anything like it. This is legit the future. Well, this is just great. An old-timer in a new era with absolutely zero clue what's going on. How is he supposed to operate? The doctor explains that the Great Cataclysm he mentioned happened 50 years ago. It's over now. There are still monsters, but not nearly as many. The world has returned to a state of peace. If that's true, then no matter how hard this is to swallow, he's got to be thankful. He has to accept it. Ichikami Minato, the hero of 1970, sacrificed himself to save the world. And somehow, he was reincarnated into the body of this kid, Kusanagi Minato. But how in the world did that even happen? A few weeks later, Minato is discharged from the hospital. Using the original owner's memories, he finds his way back to his apartment. Kusanagi Minato's parents passed away when he was young. Since then, he's been living off the inheritance they left him. Lying on the bed, Minato ponders. He doesn't believe in reincarnation. This incredible comeback had to be the work of a god. Minato starts going through Kusanagi Minato's documents. He discovers the kid was attending something called Kamui Magic Academy. Back in Minato's day, nothing like this existed. This could actually be interesting. Suddenly, a noise comes from his bag. He picks up a phone, the screen flashes, incoming call from Tadano. Minato has no idea what to do with this thing. So he just tosses it aside. Zero interest. A flood of spam messages from Tadano pops up. Heard you got out of the hospital. Get your ass back to school. I'm broke. The next morning, Minato somehow manages to show up at the academy. He's old enough to be these kids' uncle, but here he is, back in school. It's actually a little exciting. Sounds cool, right? But Minato immediately starts judging this entire school. Some punk yells and flicks his wrist, launching a pathetically weak spell at a wooden dummy. Minato scans the area with his expert eyes. Every single student has an absolutely trash-tier amount of mana. He facepalms in disappointment. He can't believe the descendants of magic users have become this pathetic. Compared to when Minato was just starting out, these NPCs aren't even a tenth of his level. Minato walks off, looking completely dejected, oblivious to the many eyes watching him. A moment later, Minato's mood brightens up again. Sitting at a desk, he feels like he's back in the good old days. It's a rush. He wonders if the original owner had any friends. Speak of the devil. A gang of clowns rolls up. A loud slam on his desk and a booming voice erupt from behind him. You damn punk, ignoring my texts? You're just a nobody from the Kusanagi family. Who do you think you are? Minato calmly replies, and you are? The red-haired punk's eyes bulge. He lunges forward and kicks Minato's desk, screaming like a maniac. You piece of trash? You dare forget the great Tadano-jun? You useless bum. Minato remembers the name Tadano from the phone. Oh, right. You're my friend, aren't you? Jun smirks and holds out his hand. Finally remembered, you loser? Do you even know what friend means? Minato immediately grabs Jun's hand and squeezes tight. Of course, friends are supposed to help each other out. Jun yelps and yanks his hand away. He grabs Minato by the collar, looking like he's about to eat him alive. The money! Where's your money? Spit it out! You've still got plenty of that inheritance left, right? Minato sighs. Now he gets it. Kusanagi Minato didn't have friends. He was being bullied. This Jun kid is like a pufferfish. Every word from Minato makes him swell up with rage, ready to throw a punch. Just then, the classroom door slides open, and a sweet, enchanting voice chimes in. Good morning. A girl with blue hair walks in, radiating pure riz. Her face is bright and cheerful, her body graceful. Her thighs are perfectly sculpted. The sight alone makes Jun stop dead in his tracks, practically drooling all over Minato. In front of his goddess, he wouldn't dare cause a scene. He just threatens Minato with a few more words before storming off. Today's class happens to be history. The professor is talking about the supreme sorcerer Ichikami Minato, who sacrificed himself to end that horrifying event. Everyone in class is nodding off thanks to the professor's sleep-inducing voice. When monsters overran the world, pushing humanity to the brink of extinction, the leading magic user of the time, the supreme sorcerer Ichikami Minato, and a series of other well-known events followed. The professor then asks the class, does anyone know who exactly Ichikami Minato was? The blue-haired girl, Mizuha, jumps to her feet to answer. He was the sole survivor of the first great cataclysm, the very first magic user, and the reason the Kamui Magic Academy was founded. As she speaks, Mizuha's eyes sparkle with admiration for her idol, Minato. The professor confirms she's absolutely correct. Minato was the first human to ever use magic. This academy was founded to train more mages just like him. Ichikami Minato is the greatest sorcerer in human history. The professor even emphasizes this will be on the test. Meanwhile, Minato is hiding his face in his desk, wishing the professor would just stop. Every single cringe cell in his body has been activated. Minato's unusual trembling has his classmates confused. He's just regretting coming here to listen to people sing his praises for an entire period. However, because the world is now at peace, it seems the later generations of sorcerers have grown progressively weaker. Minato just stares out the window, lost in thought, admiring the clear blue sky. How long has it been since he's felt this kind of peace? After what feels like an eternity, the professor ends the class, reminding them that tomorrow is the magic assessment test. Jun immediately corners Minato to mock him. You hear that? Magic assessment. It's going to be hilarious watching you make a fool of yourself tomorrow. Minato looks bored out of his mind. Does this lunatic ever shut up? He just wants to leave. Seeing Minato get up to leave, Jun starts dissing his parents to provoke him. Your old man and woman didn't have any powers either, right? Oh wait, I forgot. You're just a pathetic orphan. The whole crew bursts out laughing, and Minato can't let that slide. Even though they're talking about Kusanagi Minato's parents, not his, a man's pride is on the line. Do your parents know you're such a degenerate? Minato calmly retorts. But that one line is enough to set the pufferfish off. What did you say, you orphan? Don't you dare compare me to you. Jun instantly summons a magic circle, its power bathing the entire room in a fiery red glow. The other students look at each other nervously. Is he really going to use magic in the classroom? Jun launches a fireball straight at Minato. He's actually trying to kill him, but Minato just stands there, perfectly calm, even as the other students scramble away in fear. Watch out. Mizuha runs toward Minato, her face filled with worry. A massive explosion erupts, followed by intense heat. The blast engulfs the entire room in an instant. Mizuha couldn't make it in time. All she can do is curse Jun for being a show-off with his pathetic magic. He didn't even care that other students could have gotten hurt. Getting yelled at by his goddess just pisses Jun off even more. It's his fault for provoking me. It's not my fault. A few seconds later, the flames die down. Only a thick cloud of gray smoke remains, obscuring everyone's vision. As the smoke begins to clear, a figure is still standing in the middle of it all. Minato, one hand in his pocket, the other holding his bag, stands there completely unharmed, looking at them like nothing happened. He scratches his head, and it's hard to tell if he's complimenting or mocking Jun. That was pretty impressive. Jun's soul practically leaves his body. He's looking at a ghost. How is he not even scratched after taking a direct hit like that? To Minato, a level 1 spell is a joke. A basic magic barrier is more than enough to block it. He didn't even need to use any other magic. Minato was holding back, thinking June was just some punk kid. But it looks like this clown needs a reality check. Seeing the look on Minato's face now, the three stooges huddle together in absolute terror. A powerful blue flame erupts from Minato's body. The light quickly envelops the entire room. Everyone present is frozen in place, unable to move. They have no idea what kind of entity they're facing. Minato slowly walks toward the trembling June, who's shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Minato extends his arm toward him, his eyes completely void of light. June's face is a mess of fear, his mouth wide open, unable to utter a single word. What was that noise? Did one of you use magic? A professor suddenly bursts in, having heard the explosion June caused. Minato retracts his arm as the professor asks what's going on. Minato lets out a small sigh, then puts on an innocent face. Nothing happened in here, sir. Maybe someone outside accidentally misfired their spell? But there are no magic clubs practicing on campus right now, the professor says. Minato quickly changes the subject. Well, maybe someone was just testing their magic. You know how sorcerers love to show off? Then where did this smoke come from? The professor sniffs the burnt air. Minato claims it drifted in from outside. Unbelievably, the professor buys it because he trusts that Minato wouldn't lie. But before leaving, the professor warns the students, I'll find the culprit, you'll see. Now everyone, back to your seats. Minato cheerfully waves goodbye to the professor. Guess I'll have to stage a scene to cover this up, he thinks to himself. After the professor leaves, the room falls into a suffocating silence. Jun turns and bolts, silently cursing Minato under his breath. Minato, however, is deep in thought. Even if they're just students, how is this school supposed to fight off monsters? The Great Cataclysm may be over, but there are still monsters lurking around. So, Minato decides to do a little recon. That night, in the desolate ruins of old Shibuya, an area yet to be restored, Minato uses a magic circle to fly through the sky. He lands on a decrepit building to observe. Then, he picks up speed, but he can't sense any monsters nearby. Even though the place looks like a wasteland, it seems the police have already cleaned it up. Suddenly, Minato senses the presence of a monster nearby. And what's more, he senses a human too. He immediately jets off in the direction of the signal. At that moment, a girl is trembling on the ground. Before her stands a terrifying two-headed beast. Its mouths are drooling, having been starved for years. In a life-or-death moment, Minato appears just in time. The monster, just inches away, suddenly roars in agony. Minato had summoned countless sharp spikes from the ground. They impale its body, tearing it to shreds. With just that, he's already obliterated the monster, a beast several times his size. Minato turns to look at the girl on the ground. The emblem on her uniform belongs to the magic police. Minato decides it's best not to get involved. He just tells the girl to be more careful next time. Before she can even thank him, Minato vanishes into the sky as if he was never there. The police officer, after composing herself, has no idea who Minato was. He looked like a high-level sorcerer, but she noticed he didn't chant any spells at all. At this moment, Minato is gliding through the sky like he's surfing on water. Hiding his face was the right call. Since he's a soul inhabiting Kusanagi Minato's body, he can't afford to stand out too much. But today, Minato is disappointed once again. A magic police officer almost got cooked by a trash-tier monster like that. The skill level of the police has clearly gone down the drain. Minato is certain that humanity today couldn't even kill a low-level grunt. And it's not just the students and the police. It seems like all sorcerers in this era have gotten way weaker. But Minato isn't sad. In fact, he's happy. Because it means his power is still useful. Minato will use his mana to clean up the nearby monsters. He can't let them harm the innocent people here. The next day, just as expected, the students are gathered to have their mana levels measured. In front of them is a massive, bulky machine that can measure both mana quantity and attribute the two most important stats for aspiring professional sorcerers. Minato is floored. Why is magic regressing like this? He can forgive the students, but if even the teachers can't sense a student's mana, it's just hopeless. Sensing mana is the very foundation of magic. Don't you people know that? Suddenly, Mizuha strikes up a conversation with him. Do you have a moment? The two of them talking sends a ripple of gossip through the classroom. Mizuha mentions this is the first time they've had a proper conversation. She reintroduces herself as Mizuha Zuika, the second daughter of the noble magic family, Mizuha. Minato is baffled for the umpteenth time. Noble magic family? What the hell is that? Zuika is shocked that Minato doesn't know the Mizuha family is one of the 4 great clans leading the sorcerer world. Minato doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. None of this stuff existed back in his day. He's never even heard the name Mizuha before. Plus, Zuika's mana level isn't even that high. For a family so famous in the sorcerer world, this amount of mana is just plain pathetic. Meanwhile, Zuika still doesn't understand why Minato is acting this way. She initiated the conversation, and he's not even grateful? Over on the side, Jun is grinding his teeth, green with envy that Zuika is talking to Minato. Minato scratches his head and plays along. So, what does a member of such a powerful family want with me? Zuika genuinely wants to punch him, but as a noble, she has to maintain her elegance. This whole act is making Minato lose his patience. Zuika came to him because yesterday, Minato was completely unscathed after taking Jun's full-force attack. There has to be a reason for that. Just as Zuika opens her mouth, the professor announces, "It's time for the test." Minato is thrilled. A perfect excuse to get away from this annoying girl. Zuika is frustrated, but not angry. After all, the test will reveal Minato's true power anyway. Next up is Jun, his face a mask of fake confidence, trying to look all high and mighty. He unleashes a burst of mana, making the machine light up. The number on the screen quickly stops at 1,000. Jun whoops like a chimpanzee. Hell yeah, I'm even stronger than before. Minato muses to himself. If that's 1,000, then the evaluation standards haven't changed a bit in 50 years. Next up is Zuika, looking just as confident as Jun. The moment she lightly touches the machine, the number shoots up to 2,000. Water attribute. The professor's jaw drops, and he heaps praise on them. Your mana levels are truly at the top of this year's class. You two will definitely become outstanding sorcerers. The whole class erupts in applause for these 2 rising stars. Only Minato can't bring himself to smile. Zuika is top of the class with a mere 2,000 mana? That's barely better than a bunch of amateurs. Zuika glances over at Minato, wondering if he's ashamed after seeing her results. Minato tries to avoid Zuika's challenging gaze. This girl is seriously annoying. Next, it's Minato's turn. The whole class knows he's a bookworm, but when it comes to magic, he's always at the bottom. Jun still thinks Minato is a nobody, even though he was scared enough to pee his pants yesterday. Zuika watches Minato's every move, convinced he can't possibly match her. Minato isn't sure what to do. He stood out too much in his past life, which made him a bit lonely. Maybe this time he should tone it down. But then he remembers the punk and the girl looking down on him from behind. Nah, Minato doesn't feel like being humble today. Minato places his hand on the machine. He releases a fraction of his abundant mana. Not even close to full power. He wonders if this thing can even handle his full mana output. Minato's mana is so overwhelming, it's like a physical presence. It even bursts out of the classroom, startling students in other buildings. Zuika's eyes go wide, having no clue what's happening. The number on the screen keeps climbing non-stop. The crystal is overflowing with mana. It's even shooting a beam of energy into the ceiling. A bright flash, and then a deafening explosion. The sound echoes far and wide. Shards of the crystal fly everywhere. At that speed, the shrapnel could easily kill someone. Minato uses his magic to block the fragments, ensuring no one gets hurt. My guy got serious for literally 2 seconds, and this trash-tier machine just couldn't handle the heat. Plus, no one here can even sense his mana. Are these kids really going to become sorcerers? The professor frantically checks to make sure no one was injured. He even thinks Minato was lucky to be standing at the epicenter of the blast without a scratch on him. This is the first time I've ever seen the assessment device explode. Maybe it was faulty to begin with? But now we can't determine Kusanagi's mana level or attribute. Minato wonders why that even matters. Turns out, the academy divides students into groups for practical training, and now they don't know where to place him. So, the professor assigns Minato to Jun's group. He glances at his 2 lackeys. A wicked grin spreads across his face. Of course, Professor. The teacher, in turn, feels completely at ease, leaving Minato with Jun. Jun walks past Minato, putting on his best villainous sneer to try and intimidate him. I'm looking forward to it, Professor. The practical training site is old Shibuya again. Because monsters still inhabit the ruins, the area is currently abandoned. Sorcerers and police regularly patrol to ensure monsters don't wander out. That's why Academy students are required to participate. More than half the monsters here have already been cleared out by professional sorcerers, so they can rest easy. Minato didn't expect a practical class. Oh well, he figures the students can probably handle a few grunts, especially in groups. Minato was just here last night, but something feels off. He's sure he wiped out all the monsters here, yet he can still sense a few. There are no signs of a disaster around here. So how are they still spawning? The other students are placing bets with each other. Who's going to take down the most today? Minato feels a pang of worry for these carefree girls. The professor announces the start of the practical class. Jun immediately shoves Minato against a wall. With a smug, superior look, he says, "Hey, stay put and don't get in our way. I'm being nice, so don't even think about begging for help, got it?" Minato dusts off his sleeve. "If you don't like me, you could just ignore me." Minato's logical comeback flips a switch in Jun's brain. "Don't talk to me like we're equals, you bottom feeder. Why the hell is Mizuha even interested in a piece of trash like you?" Minato looks confused. Is this lunatic really picking a fight over a girl? A light bulb goes off in Minato's head. Oh, don't tell me you like Mizuha? Jun's eyes blaze with fury. But Minato isn't paying attention to him anymore. He senses something approaching. Jun once again summons his magic. His two goons in the back pitch in as well. Minato tells him to stop, but Jun thinks he's begging. Minato just calmly tells him to look behind him. Jun scoffs, "You think I'd fall for such a childish trick?" A massive shadow suddenly looms over them, forcing Jun to turn around instinctively. A huge, two-horned demon had appeared out of nowhere. The three punk kids immediately huddle together. Jun's voice trembles. What is that? Why is it here? Why is there an ogre soldier here? In front of a real monster, these three are nothing but fodder. His two lackeys beg Jun to do something. Though terrified, he puts on a brave face. "Take this, you bastard!" Jun unleashes a torrent of fire, engulfing the ogre soldier's entire body. Seeing it stand still, he thinks he's won. Piece of cake? But he's dead wrong. After the flames die down, the ogre soldier's body doesn't have a single scratch. Minato isn't surprised. A level 1 spell taking down an ogre soldier? As if. But for now, Minato's just going to enjoy the show. The ogre soldier takes a step toward them. Jun is so scared he collapses to the ground. His eyes are wide with terror. His teeth chatter, unable to form words. His pants are soaked because he forgot his diaper today. The ogre soldier lunges at Jun, but it stops halfway when it sees Minato. A flood of bloody memories from the great cataclysm of its fallen comrades flashes through its mind. The ogre soldier immediately backs away. Minato calmly steps forward. It's obvious even an ogre soldier knows who's the strongest among us, right? That's right. It can sense our mana levels. The overwhelming power radiating from Minato, the ogre soldier's arm trembles. It roars, summoning multiple magic circles. Minato raises his hand, summoning his own magic circle without an incantation. How can you beat it with level 1 magic? We're gonna die. The kids behind him scream in terror. The ogre soldier has already unleashed its level 2 magic, Stonewall. Huge chunks of rock hurtle toward them. Jun shuts his eyes, too scared to watch. Minato just smirks. He uses the level 1 spell, Fire Arrow, and a massive torrent of flames erupts from his hand. Just by looking at it, you know it's going to completely annihilate the ogre soldier's pathetic little rocks. And just as expected, the rocks are incinerated. Next up is the ogre soldier. A massive explosion creates a powerful gust of wind, making Minato's coat flutter dramatically. Jun and his crew finally open their eyes. He's wondering what the hell just happened. Did Minato just take down that ogre soldier and save his life? Minato walks over to the ogre soldier's magic stone. Why was this thing in Shibuya? He hunted down every single monster here last night, and yet it still appeared. Unless this is a sign of an impending catastrophe, the situation seems more serious than Minato expected. Remembering those memories of death and destruction, Minato can't help but shudder. But even if another disaster strikes, he will save everyone, no matter what. Meanwhile, Jun's two lackeys look at each other. Did he just take down that ogre soldier? Is that really the same Kusanagi from before? Jun suddenly punches a wall in frustration. How could he face Zuika if she found out about this? Actually, right at this moment, Zuika is hiding behind a rock, and she's already witnessed Jun's entire pants-wetting performance. Let's rewind a few minutes. In another area, students were fighting magic beasts, but they were just low-level fodder. Zuika easily wiped them out with level 1 magic. The other students watching from the sidelines cheered her on. Awesome, that's Mizuha for you. Hearing their praise, Zuika let out a small sigh. They're this impressed by so little? These commoners are only good for flattery. Oh well, I am a genius. After all, what can you do? But just then, Zuika saw Jun's group dragging Minato into a secluded corner. Remembering how Minato was being bullied, Zuika couldn't help but frown. Finally, she turned to the others and said, "I'll leave the rest to you." She quickly followed them. She couldn't just ignore this, could she? So Zuika hid in a corner, silently observing the group, until she saw the ogre soldier appear. Zuika's face instantly went pale with panic. She knew for a fact that group couldn't possibly defeat it. The more she thought, the more panicked she became, clenching her fists tightly. I have to do something. I'm a member of the Mizuha family, after all. Finally, Zuika ran out and yelled, "Everyone, run!" But before she could finish, a magic blast suddenly shot past her, leaving her stunned. With a loud bang, an explosion went off in front of her, filling the air with smoke and fire. When the smoke cleared, the scene finally came into view. Zuika saw Minato standing there, completely unfazed. She frowned in disbelief. That was Minato's magic? Zuika remembered him as being shy and having zero talent for magic. Now, he's like a completely different person. She didn't hear him chant any spells either, casting magic without an incantation. What's more, he easily defeated that ogre soldier with just level 1 magic. A monster's power is determined by the number of magic stones it possesses. This is the basis for their ranking system. Normal magic beasts are rank 6, ogre soldiers are rank 5, 1 level higher. Ogre commanders are rank 4. Ogre generals are rank 3. Higher still, rank 2 is the ogre king. And at the very top is the ogre lord. The rank of magic needed to damage each type of monster is fixed. Every modern sorcerer knows this. You need at least level 3 magic to take down an ogre soldier. So how could Minato's level 1 magic work? Zuika just couldn't wrap her head around it. While she was lost in confusion, Minato slowly walked toward her hiding spot. Startled, Zuika quickly pressed herself deeper into the shadows. But then she caught herself. Why was she hiding like this? Only after Minato had walked some distance away did Zuika peek her head out to follow him. Too bad Minato had already spotted her. He smirked and called out, "Peeping on others seems to be a hobby of yours, huh?" Zuika was stunned. She frowned and asked, "How did you know?" With a casual shrug, Minato replied, "If you call yourself a sorcerer, it'd be weird not to know." But Minato's answer only confused Zuika even more. Seeing her reaction, Minato knew. He sighed in frustration. "You people can't sense magic, can you?" With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Zuika standing there bewildered. When she finally snapped out of it, she ran after him. She quickly called out, "Wait a minute, what was that? Explain yourself!" But he was already gone, vanished without a trace. There was no one in front of her. The person she was looking for was now standing on the rooftop of a nearby building. Minato saw her searching for him and couldn't help but sigh. He scanned the area and whispered, "Might as well do one more sweep, just to be sure." Minato then used his mana to scan the surroundings. No more ogre soldiers, but there were still quite a few magic beasts left. This situation was really starting to annoy him. Even a so-called top student like Jun wet his pants. The other students would probably get folded instantly. Minato frowned thoughtfully. Maybe I should give them a hand. His barrier could cover the entire Shibuya area. No sooner said than done. Minato quickly gathered mana in both hands. In an instant, 2 massive magic circles appeared in the air. Then, they began to expand. Before long, they had enveloped the entirety of Shibuya. Seeing the beams of mana in the sky, Jun's crew was stunned, wondering what it was. Even Zuika was no exception. She frowned and muttered, "Is that magic? Multicast magic?" At the same time, in another corner, a swarm of magic beasts had surrounded 2 academy students. There were so many that it sent them into a panic. Just then, a magic beast lunged at a pink-haired female student. The girl's face was etched with terror. She was completely frozen. In a split second, life or death moment, a beam of mana suddenly appeared, instantly tearing the attacking beast to shreds. The pink-haired girl, having just escaped death, was so scared her legs gave out and she collapsed. The male student rushed over, anxiously asking, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Meanwhile, on a nearby rooftop, Minato looked down and nodded with satisfaction. Nice. Wiping them out like this is pretty entertaining. But he quickly realized a problem with his mana control. A cold sweat beaded on Minato's forehead. Because his mana didn't just kill the beasts, it ripped them to pieces. In the blink of an eye, fragments of beast corpses littered the entire area. Seeing this, Minato couldn't help but sigh in frustration. Did I go a little overboard? In the end, he ended up wiping out most of them. How is the practical class supposed to continue now? I need to hold back a little next time. After a moment of silence, Minato used magic to leap down from the building. He scanned the surroundings for a moment before nodding with satisfaction. Yeah, this area should be clear. After confirming everything was safe, Minato found a secluded spot to land. Even though he didn't need to hide his skills times much, standing out too much was a headache. With that thought, he headed toward the other students. The instructor was currently examining the beast corpses. After a while, he muttered in confusion, "Why are there still so many beasts left? The entire horde should have been wiped out. To take out this many in one shot, the person responsible must be a professional sorcerer. And it's non-elemental magic. Firing countless magic bullets like this can only be non-elemental magic. I've never seen anything like it. If it weren't for this person, the situation would have quickly spiraled out of the instructor's control. Firing multiple magic bullets at once is one thing, but we're talking about more than 60 here. There's no way a student could do this." While he was deep in thought, a student couldn't hold back their frustration and demanded, "Why were there so many beasts left, sir? We almost died." "It's my fault." The instructor didn't deny his responsibility and bowed his head in apology. He explained with a grim look, "I was informed that the police had already cleared out the entire horde. I should have double-checked with the academy. I'm truly sorry for putting you all in such a dangerous situation." Hearing this, the students didn't know what to say, their faces filled with resignation. The girl who was just saved timidly asked, "Someone came and saved us, right?" The instructor shook his head. "I don't know who it was," the girl sighed. "Oh, I just wanted to thank them." The instructor genuinely had no idea. It definitely wasn't the police or any professional sorcerers. Could it be a rogue mage? But he couldn't deny that this person had just saved his students. From the bottom of his heart, he was grateful to this anonymous sorcerer. Minato, the anonymous sorcerer in the instructor's thoughts, was standing in the distance, just smiling without saying a word. After escaping danger, the students finally calmed down and started buzzing about the magic they had just witnessed. Minato glanced around. It seemed everyone was okay. He could rest easy now. At the same time, a hostile glare was fixed on him. It was Jun and his crew. These punks just had a near-death experience and still haven't matured one bit. Minato sighed in resignation. Elsewhere, Zuika was also secretly observing Minato. He took down an ogre soldier with just level 1 magic, and that infinite magic, was that him too? But fire magic and non-elemental magic, she believed no student was skilled enough to use 2 different magic attributes at the same time, especially not Minato. The thought brought her some relief. I'm just overthinking things. There's no way a guy like that could use 2 attributes at once. The person who used that non-elemental magic must have been someone else. Still, that doesn't change the fact that Minato destroyed an ogre soldier. She was still trying to figure out what he was all about. Minato felt Zuika's gaze on him, but he didn't react. Just then, the 2 guys with Jun finally regained their composure. One of them muttered in awe, "That laser-like thing Kusanagi did that too." The other immediately denied it. No way. But the first guy was convinced. But he took down the ogre soldier. This enraged Jun, his face turning as black as the bottom of a pot. He snarled, "Shut your mouth before I kill you." The 2 of them knew when to shut up and didn't dare say another word. Jun's eyes were filled with malice. He seethed, "There's no way that worthless fly is that strong. Something fishy is going on." His 2 lackeys, not daring to argue, quickly agreed. "Yeah, it's really weird. Wasn't he just a coward?" Jun was pleased with their response. "That damn punk is definitely pulling some trick. You dare make a fool of me? I'll expose his true colors." A little later, after school, Minato was heading home as usual. But his path was blocked by a group of students. He was a bit confused. The leader was none other than the punk, Jun. He glared and said, "I've been waiting for you." Minato was truly fed up with these clowns. He sighed, "Are you guys deaf? Instead of running around causing trouble, why don't you spend that time learning magic? It'd be more useful." This comment triggered Jun's rage mode. He roared, "You don't have the right to speak! You damn liar!" Liar? Minato was confused. What was he talking about? "Umph," Jun snorted angrily. "Don't play dumb. There's no way you can use magic like that. You're definitely pulling some trick behind my back." Minato just stared at him, his eyes filled with bewilderment. He had absolutely no idea what nonsense this guy was spouting. Seeing him stay silent, Jun ordered, "Come with me. I won't let a coward like you run away." With that, the other guys moved to stand behind him. Degenerates always travel in packs. Minato looked at the gang of punks and shrugged indifferently. Why would I need to run? Provoked by his attitude, Jun yelled again, "Stop your damn blabbering! You can't use magic here, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, he clenched his fist and lunged forward. Jun's fist was inches from Minato's face in an instant, but Minato didn't even flinch. The others with him quickly rushed in, throwing punch after punch. They laughed cockily. "Without magic, you can't do anything, can you? Even if you lick my shoes now, I won't forgive you. Die, Kusanagi." The more he spoke, the more twisted his smile became. But unfortunately for them, they couldn't even touch a single hair on Minato. Minato stood there calmly, his eyes filled with disdain. Their pathetic attacks couldn't even reach him. His mana was automatically protecting him. They could punch him all day, and he wouldn't get a scratch. But these flies were getting annoying. Minato thought about just letting them hit him to get it over with. So he decided to sit on the ground and pretend to be beaten. But just then, a loud shout rang out, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The group jumped and looked back to see Zuika standing there. Jun's face immediately soured. He muttered under his breath, "Zuika." Afraid she would think poorly of him, Jun quickly explained, "It's nothing. We were just messing around." Zuika snorted coldly. "I know you're all ganging up on Kusanagi. You wear the uniform of a magic academy, yet you act like a bunch of bullies? Have you no shame?" Hearing this, Jun's crew looked extremely uncomfortable. Jun's face was as dark as a thundercloud. He glared at Minato. It was all his fault that Zuika was now looking down on him. While Jun was lost in thought, Zuika walked over, took Minato's hand, and said, "Let's get out of here, Kusanagi." The sight of them holding hands caught Jun's eye. His anger reached its boiling point. In his mind, he started cursing Minato's entire family line for 18 generations. Seeing the look on Jun's face, his two lackeys were too scared to try and calm him down. Finally, Jun couldn't hold it in anymore and exploded. "Damn you, Kusanagi!" Minato sighed. This guy was like superglue, sticking to him and never letting go. At this moment, Jun was furious, summoning magic into his hand and roaring, "You son of a bitch! I'm going to kill you!" Seeing this, Zuika panicked. "Tadano, what are you doing?" But Jun had gone berserk. He and his cronies all launched their magic attacks at Minato. Zuika grew more frantic, shouting a warning, "It's dangerous." At the same time, a massive explosion erupted in front of them. Smoke and fire filled the air, forcing Zuika to shield her eyes. Believing Minato was buried in the flames, Jun laughed triumphantly. "Even if you cheat 10 more times, it won't save you now, boy." His two goons, however, were terrified. "Oh God, this is bad. Is he really dead?" Jun snorted. "You idiots, what are you scared of? We just accidentally used magic outside of school and lost control. Kusanagi just happened to be in the way. That's all." But while he was gloating, a deep voice suddenly echoed from within the smoke. "You guys have gone too far." This made Jun jump and look back. A figure slowly emerged from the hazy smoke. Minato stood there completely unharmed, glaring at the punks. "I thought you were just kids, so I let it slide. But I guess all stupidity must be paid for with death. It's time I taught you a lesson." Seeing this, Jun's face contorted in horror. "You're alive? You took all that magic and you're still alive?" Even Zuika behind him was equally shocked, still trying to process what happened. Minato didn't bother explaining. "If it was just me, that'd be one thing. But you dragged Zuika into this too? You're rotten to the core, kid." Biting his lip fiercely, Jun yelled defiantly, "You two are the ones at fault! You dare make a fool of me! We'll keep attacking until you're nothing but skeletons!" As he finished, magic appeared in his hands again. Minato wasn't fazed. He calmly snapped his fingers. He summoned a small amount of magic. Seeing the mini magic circle in front of him, June laughed contemptuously. What kind of pathetic magic is that? You're dead for sure this time. Instantly, they all attacked Minato again. But Minato was completely calm, muttering, "Mana drain." As he spoke, magic-infused vines suddenly appeared in front of him. They moved like pythons, writhing in the air. They shot straight towards June's crew, wrapping around them tightly. They screamed in panic, "What the hell is this? Let me go!" But it wasn't long before they went limp like deflated balloons. They collapsed to the ground, completely drained of energy. Seeing this, Minato retracted his vines. Without the vines supporting them, June's crew fell flat on their faces. Minato was a bit surprised. I only drained a little bit of their mana and they're already knocked out? Well, I guess that's enough to teach them a lesson. Witnessing this, Zuika was even more shocked. What kind of magic was that? What just happened? Why did June and the others pass out? While she was lost in thought, Minato grabbed his bag and prepared to leave. Seeing this, Zuika quickly shouted to stop him. "Hey, wait a minute!" She barraged him with questions. "What was that magic? What just happened? You shouldn't be able to use magic that skillfully." Zuika kept questioning him, like an interrogation. Minato found her incredibly annoying. He snorted, "Instead of grilling me, shouldn't you be saying something else?" Zuika knew what he meant. She turned her head away, embarrassed. "I'll admit you saved me. Thanks. All right, now answer me." But before she could finish, the person in front of her had vanished. Zuika yelled in frustration, "Where did he go again? Seriously?" That night, in the gloomy old Shibuya district, a figure used magic to glide through the dark sky like the wind. He quickly landed on a tall building in the city. This person was none other than Minato, disguised in his usual hoodie. Minato used magic to scan the area, feeling a sense of unease. Just as he thought. He had killed all the monsters this afternoon, but the place was swarming with them again. Was this a bad omen? If it was just Shibuya, Minato could handle it alone. But he could also sense them in other places. This was probably too much for the police to handle. Even though the magic police weren't great, he couldn't kill all the monsters in Japan by himself. Minato figured he needed to come up with a plan. After some thought, Minato decided to eliminate the monsters around here first. He needed to be careful. With that, Minato used magic to jump down and start annihilating the beasts. Bolts of magic rained down from the sky like crazy. The magic beasts dropped like flies. Just then, a drunk man was stumbling down the street. He didn't notice the magic beast right behind him. Instantly, the beast lunged at the man. In a life-or-death moment, Minato appeared and sliced it in two, moving as fast as the wind. Feeling something brush past him, the drunk man turned around. But he saw no one. He thought he was imagining things, but it was just Minato who had quickly hidden to the side. The drunk man continued on his way home. Minato confirmed he was safe before leaving the area. But he didn't notice that someone from a distance had recorded the entire scene. The guy had already posted it on social media, grinning triumphantly. If this doesn't go viral, I don't know what will. The next morning, in the principal's office of the Magic Academy, another teacher was present. He looked at the students before him and said in a grave voice, "We've received a report that some students were seen using magic off campus. If this is true, the school will be forced to suspend those involved." The students in question were Minato and Zuika. June's crew was also summoned. Hearing this, June immediately pointed fingers. "What do you mean, sir? We didn't use any magic. It was Kusanagi who came looking for trouble." Minato was truly amazed by this level of shamelessness. This guy could lie without even blinking. Impressive. He knew he couldn't stay silent anymore. Even though he was dragged into this, he had to explain. But before Minato could do anything, a loud shout of lies echoed, startling both him and June's crew. The one who spoke up was none other than Zuika. She pointed an accusatory finger at June. Kusanagi was being bullied by Tadano and his friends. It was Tadano who used magic first. The teacher frowned. "So that means Kusanagi also used magic?" Zuika shot back defiantly. "It was self-defense! He didn't do anything wrong!" Minato was a bit surprised. This girl was quite righteous, not lying one bit. But June's face was thicker than concrete. Even after all that, he stubbornly denied it. "We didn't do anything wrong either." Zuika grew even more frustrated. "Shut your mouth! What kind of person bullies someone and then blames them for everything? Do you have no shame? June, despite being scolded like a dog, still argued back, "Kusanagi doesn't deserve to be here. I was just taking out the trash." Zuika glared at him, her face filled with disgust. "You're the one who doesn't deserve to be here." June retorted, "I'm at the top of our class. I'm the only one who can match you, not that cheap Kusanagi." Zuika wasn't having it. "You're talking nonsense." Jun still wouldn't back down. He stepped in front of Zuika and said firmly, "Open your eyes. Stop defending that guy. Look at me. Be my woman, Zuika." At this point, his eyes were filled with sincerity. But unfortunately, Zuika didn't care for it. She snorted disdainfully, "In your dreams, kid." In an instant, June froze as if he'd been plunged into an ice pit. But that wasn't enough. Zuika also listed her reasons for rejecting him, calling him a violent bully. The verbal beatdown was so severe, he nearly fainted. Minato couldn't help but think, even though June deserved it, that was a bit too harsh. Just then, the principal spoke up. It seems this was Tadano and his friend's fault, and Kusanagi was just defending himself. "We do not tolerate those who use magic for personal vendettas. You will all be expelled." June's two lackeys panicked. "No, please! We were just following June's orders." The principal didn't want to hear it and asked Minato and Zuika to return to class. The two of them immediately agreed and left the office. Zuika was out of the room, but her anger lingered. She grumbled, "That guy, it's been a long time since someone made me this angry." Minato, walking beside her, asked curiously what would happen now that they were expelled. Zuika pouted and said nonchalantly, "They can't become sorcerers anymore, obviously." Then, she suddenly turned to Minato and said fiercely, "And you need to stand up for yourself." Minato was a bit taken aback. He was about to, but she had already done it for him. Seeing him stay silent, Zuika suddenly looked flustered. Minato frowned in thought for a moment, then said, "Come to think of it, how many times have you tried to save me now?" In class, when Minato was dragged into a fight, Zuika stood up for him, and then this time, she testified on his behalf. Thinking about it, Minato smiled at her. "You're really kind." Minato's words made Zuika blush crimson. She quickly ran off. "Shut up, I'm leaving." Minato watched her go and chuckled. Cute. Just then, he remembered something. Kusanagi Minato was dead, and he, Ichikami Minato, was reincarnated. Did that kid get bullied to death? Or was it just a normal car accident? Minato didn't know. But he was sure they were guilty, and hoped this would be their just desserts. Meanwhile, back in the principal's office, two more students appeared, along with a girl's clear voice. So, a student used magic off campus, and some others got involved. The principal nodded. Yes, but no civilians were harmed. The female student asked, "Then why did you summon me?" The principal replied calmly. The student involved was Mizuha Zuika, which made the girl freeze. After a moment, she said, "I understand. Thank you for telling me." Then she turned to leave. The principal didn't stop her, casually asking her to say hello to her father for him. Without turning back, the girl replied calmly, "Don't worry. My father will continue to invest in the school." The two of them quickly walked out into the hallway. The male student beside her finally spoke up. "If what he said is true, then this Kusanagi guy must be pretty strong." The girl muttered gravely, "Fighting multiple sorcerers at once is nearly impossible. You can't win unless the power gap is massive. Do you think he's stronger than us?" They continued their conversation as they walked. Other students who saw them pass by their classroom looked on with admiration. The two of them paid no mind. The girl's voice had turned serious. "First, we need to confirm the abilities of student Kusanagi Minato. Then I'll decide whether to expel my little sister." This girl was Zuika's older sister, Mizuha Ruka, a third year from the S class. The male student beside her was Katsuragi Ryuji, also a third year from the S class. He nodded and smiled. "Sounds good." Inside the classroom, Minato was slumped over his desk, sighing. Now that everything had calmed down, he'd lost all his motivation. Just then, the excited shouts of students caught his attention. "Look! So cool! Is that the Black Sorcerer? I know him!" Minato frowned in confusion. Black Sorcerer? Is that some high-ranking sorcerer? But it had nothing to do with him. He sighed again, bored out of his mind. While Minato was moping, the teacher walked in and called out, "Hey, Kusanagi." So Minato and a few other students followed the instructor to the testing room. The students who hadn't been tested before would be tested now. Zuika was also there, her eyes narrowed at Minato. This time, I'll find out your true abilities. But just then, her eyes widened in shock, because she saw Ruka and Ryuji there as well. A look of worry crossed Zuika's face. Why is she here? Regardless, the test began. A little while later, it was Minato's turn. Minato hesitated in front of the machine, thinking, last time I blew this thing up, so I should probably hold back a bit. With that, Minato summoned only a tiny amount of mana into his palm and placed it on the machine. Controlling his mana at such a low level made him break a sweat. The numbers on the machine quickly started climbing. Before long, Minato let go, panting with his hands on his knees. The instructor asked with concern, "Hey, are you all right?" He shook his head to indicate he was fine. The instructor looked at the final number and said hesitantly, "Well, it seems we have the final result. Kusanagi Minato's attribute is none." Hearing this result, Zuika's eyes filled with disbelief. Ruka and Ryuji, however, weren't too surprised. It seemed they believed Minato wasn't that strong after all. But the biggest shock was yet to come. Minato's mana level was only 100. The students present immediately started whispering, "Are you kidding me? That's the lowest possible score, but having no attribute is pretty rare, right?" Ryuji heard the gossip and couldn't help but sigh. Ruka looked impatient and immediately turned to leave. "Let's go, we're done here." As the two of them left, sounds of ridicule filled the room. "He got that winded just from a retest? If your man is weak, there's nothing you can do." The instructor, afraid Minato would be upset, came over and patted his shoulder. "Don't think too much about it, Kusanagi. Your mana level doesn't define who you are." The only one who didn't believe the result was Zuika. Something's not right. Minato was more than capable of defeating an ogre soldier. He should be able to use both fire and non-elemental systems. She had never heard of anyone being able to adjust their mana output. What the hell did Minato just do? Contrary to everyone else's reaction, Minato was very satisfied. The result is perfect, just as I planned. Minato just needed to precisely control a certain amount of mana, but even that left him breathless. Luckily, he managed to fool everyone. A little later in the hallway, Minato was walking with Zuika. "So, you were at the assessment too, Mizuha?" Zuika nodded. "I was just a little curious." But before long, their path was blocked. It was Ruka and Ryuji. Minato didn't know them. "Strangers," he muttered. Ruka immediately introduced herself. "I am the eldest daughter of the Mizuha family, Mizuha Ruka. This is Katsuragi Ryuji. We're both third years." Minato frowned. "So, what do you want?" "I've lost all interest in you." Ruka snorted coldly and walked forward. Seeing this, Zuika immediately grew anxious, her body tensing up reflexively. Ruka quickly reached Zuika and said coldly, "It seems you're no better than those rule breakers, are you?" Zuika lowered her head, not daring to face her sister. Ruka didn't let up. "I heard you were saved by someone with a mana level barely over 100. Is that true?" Zuika hesitated for a moment before replying in a low voice, "Yes, it's true." Hearing this confirmation, Ruka snapped. "Quit school, Zuika!" Zuika shot back defiantly. "Why should I?" Ruka said coldly. "Have you ever beaten me? Even once?" Zuika was stunned. Ruka was right. Whether it was in academics, sports, or martial arts training, or even using magic, Zuika had never surpassed her sister. Ruka stepped closer to Zuika and said sternly, "You're not cut out to be a sorcerer. One in the family is enough." The more Zuika heard, the worse her expression became. She wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Ruka continued relentlessly, "All you need to do is listen to me, leave this place, and just find some other school to attend." Zuika trembled, her eyes welling up with tears. She clearly wanted to object but lacked the courage. Seeing her silence, Ruka asked again, "Do you understand?" Zuika clenched her fists, her mind at war with itself. For a moment, she was ready to give in and agree. But before she could speak, Minato interrupted. "That's a bit harsh, don't you think?" Ruka glared at him. "What did you just say?" Minato was unfazed. You just keep talking without even bothering to listen to what she wants to say. If that's not rude, I don't know what is. Ruka snorted. "This is a private family matter. Outsiders like you should stay out of it." Minato pouted. "You call that a conversation? You're ordering your sister around." This enraged Ruka. "What did you say, you little punk?" Minato faced her calmly. Forcing someone to do something against their will is a line you shouldn't cross. It's the same as telling someone to give up on their dreams. Ruka still didn't see anything wrong with her actions. My sister doesn't have what it takes to be a sorcerer. She's never beaten me, not even once. Zuika stood beside them, her face filled with sorrow. Just as Ruka said, she was nothing. For so long, she had deluded herself into thinking she was a genius with the potential to become one, when in reality, she had never once surpassed her sister. But while Zuika was despairing, Minato spoke with confidence, "She can beat you." This made Zuika freeze, looking at him in disbelief. Even Ruka didn't believe it. "Beat me?" she muttered. Minato chuckled. "Of course, not right now." Ruka glared at him and sneered. "At least you know your place. How about a 2v2 practice match in 2 weeks?" Minato raised an eyebrow. 2v2? Thinking he was scared, Ruka mocked him. "Just a minute ago, you were spouting all that nonsense, and now you're chickening out?" "Nonsense," Minato retorted. "I'm in, senpai. So, what about you?" He glanced at Zuika standing beside him. Zuika was a bit stunned by the proposal, hesitating for a long time. She was torn. Should she give up her dream or fight for it one last time? After a moment of silence, she finally had her answer. "I'm in too," she declared. Minato smiled with satisfaction. Then it settled. He looked at Ruka and said with a grin, "If we win, you can't bring this up again." Ruka readily agreed. "If we win, Zuika has to leave. I won't go easy on you. You two better prepare to face reality." With that, she turned and left. Ryuji quickly followed, but before he left, he gave a friendly wave to the two of them. A little later, on the rooftop of the academy building, Minato and Zuika were there. Zuika suddenly spoke up. "Kusanagi, I have a favor to ask. Please teach me about magic." Hearing this, Minato let out a sigh of relief. He had been wondering why he was suddenly summoned to the rooftop. Minato then said slowly, "I'm just a weak sorcerer with a mana level of 100. Are you sure you want someone like me to teach you?" Zuika nodded firmly. "I know you're hiding your true strength. You're definitely much stronger than me." Minato was a bit surprised by this, but Zuika continued, "You must know some way to get stronger, which is why you said I could beat her, right?" Minato sighed. Everyone wants to control everything. That's why he egged Zuika on to suggest a practice match, but he couldn't just say that out loud. Seeing him not answer, Zuika immediately bowed her head and pleaded, "Please." Minato had no other choice but to agree. All right. In an instant, Zuika cheered. "Are you sure?" Minato nodded. "But you have to do everything I say, and you can't give up halfway." Zuika agreed without hesitation. Of course. Seeing her reaction, Minato couldn't help but smile. Who could say no to someone begging like that? Besides, he needed to prepare a bit more from now on. Teaching a sorcerer shouldn't be too bad. With that thought, Minato said slowly, "All right, we'll start today." As for the training spot, before he could finish, Zuika timidly suggested, "Can we go to my place?" So that afternoon, Zuika brought Minato to her home, which was a mansion. The moment they arrived, Minato couldn't help but exclaim, "This mansion is huge!" Zuika didn't think it was a big deal. My father is a noble sorcerer, so this is normal. Come to think of it, this was the first time she had invited a guy over. Did Minato find it weird? It's not like she had any strange intentions. But the more she thought, the more flustered Zuika became, unable to look Minato in the eye. Just then, Minato suggested, "Let's get started, Zuika." Hearing him call her by her first name, Zuika panicked. "Why are you calling me by my first name?" Minato didn't see the issue. "Well, your sister is also Mizuha. How am I supposed to know who I'm talking to otherwise?" Zuika realized she was overthinking it. Seeing her reaction, Minato asked, "If you don't like it, what should I call you?" Zuika shook her head. "No, it's fine. Just call me Zuika." Seeing no issue, Minato said, "All right, let's begin. First, I want to ask you, what exactly is mana?" Hearing the question, Zuika confidently answered, "Easy. It's the energy inside our bodies, the foundation for forming magic." Minato didn't say whether it was right or wrong and continued, "And what about incantations?" Zuika calmly replied, "A type of program that helps convert mana into magic." Minato asked again, "So, can you increase your mana?" Zuika confidently shook her head. "Impossible. A sorcerer's mana limit is set at birth. After a certain age, it stops increasing." After answering, she smiled proudly. "So, what do you think?" I answered perfectly, right? All completely wrong. Minato said flatly. Zuika was instantly shocked, looking at him in disbelief. Minato sighed. How did modern sorcerers get so backward? What happened in the last 50 years? He had no choice but to patiently explain. First, mana isn't just inside your body. It exists all around us. Incantations are just tools to assist your magic. And you can absolutely increase your mana capacity. Hearing this, Zuika exclaimed in shock. That's impossible! If that's true, then all the magic academies are useless. Minato shrugged. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not right now. I'll simply teach you about the 3 things I just mentioned. Sit down. Zuika obediently sat cross-legged on the ground. Minato said, I'm going to transfer magic into you. Let me know when you feel it. Zuika asked, You can feel mana? Minato replied, If you can't do that, you can't get stronger. Close your eyes. I'm starting. As soon as he finished, Minato placed his hand on Zuika's back. He began transferring magic into her body, but Zuika still had no reaction. Minato increased the amount of magic he was transferring. Just when he thought she still couldn't feel anything, Zuika suddenly shouted, My back is getting hot! I feel something! Minato removed his hand and said, That was just a basic mana perception exercise. Zuika stared at him intently, muttering in confusion. So this is what you mean by feeling mana. Minato nodded. Yes, you have to remember this feeling. Once you can sense it, you'll be able to recognize it and find the source of mana in nature. Make that your goal. Zuika grinned. Heh, I'm a daughter of the Mizuha family, you know. I'll get it in no time. Minato rolled his eyes. It took that much mana for you to even notice. It seemed Zuika really didn't have a talent for being a sorcerer. A week later, still at Zuika's mansion. Just as Minato predicted, Zuika was desperately shouting, I can't do it! Minato was also at a loss. It's been a week and she's still struggling. This girl is a slow learner. Even so, the match was fast approaching. He had no choice but to suggest, all right, I'll transfer mana to you one more time. With that, Minato placed his hand on Zuika's back and transferred mana into her body. A moment later, Minato said, Okay, open your eyes. Zuika obediently opened them. In an instant, her face was filled with astonishment. She exclaimed happily, I see it! So this is what mana is like? Seeing the mana around her hand, Zuika was even more surprised. Amazing! Am I really seeing mana? Wait a minute. If that's the case, I should be able to see Minato's mana now. With that thought, Zuika glanced over at Minato but saw nothing, which surprised her. Minato, unaware of her thoughts, praised her. Good job. Zuika, hearing the praise, smiled proudly. It was nothing. Minato didn't comment, instead saying, Now that you can feel mana, it's time for mana control. He told her to use just enough mana for her spells, cutting out the unnecessary parts and focusing only on efficiency. Push your mana to its limit. After you've exhausted it, your mana capacity will increase when it recovers. Minato also told her that now that she could feel mana, she could increase her maximum mana capacity. Zuika was more and more amazed. Seeing her reaction, Minato sighed. Is this different from the basics taught in school? It's okay if you don't believe me. I believe you, Zuika said firmly before he could finish. I have no more doubts about you. Minato smiled. All right then, on to the next stage. Step back a bit, Zuika. It's time for combat practice. With that, he took off his jacket and threw it to the ground. Zuika eagerly agreed. Bring it on! I want to see your real power too. Immediately, she summoned her magic, a level 1 water wave spell. A raging torrent of water rushed toward Minato, but he just casually raised his hand and a protective barrier appeared, completely blocking the wave. Seeing this, Zuika exclaimed in shock, He blocked it! Just then, Minato spoke slowly. Level 1 non-elemental magic. If you can't even break through this, don't even think about hurting Ruka. Biting her lip, Zuika cast another spell. Ice bullets shot toward Minato. But he just stood there, his barrier deflecting them. Minato reminded her, You need to move when you use magic. Standing still against a sorcerer is asking for trouble. Provoked by his words, Zuika cast another spell. But before long, she had exhausted her mana and collapsed on the ground. Minato walked over and sat down beside her. He sighed, You're wasting too much mana. If you could control it better, you wouldn't even need incantations. You could cast magic as long as you have mana. Watch. As he spoke, Minato cast a spell. A fireball appeared and shot toward a scarecrow, but it did nothing. He said, "This is your magic." Then, Minato channeled more mana into his palm. It was still a fireball, but much stronger, incinerating the scarecrow. He continued, "And this is mine." Zuika watched for a long time before asking, "Is my mana scattered?" Minato nodded. "Exactly. You can cast magic without incantations as long as you can control your mana." Zuika frowned. "In other words, no more chanting." "You could say that," Minato said. "For now, you need to learn to shorten your incantations. Once you can control your mana, you won't need them at all. Shortening them will give you an advantage in combat. And then you won't waste mana on incantations." Zuika frowned again. "So it'll make my magic stronger." "Exactly," Minato confirmed. "Let's start again." Zuika was shocked. "So soon?" Minato grinned. "Otherwise, what's the point? Train like your life depends on it." Hearing this, Zuika suddenly felt a sense of unease. A few hours later, Zuika was completely exhausted, lying on the ground. Minato stood beside her, asking with concern, "Still alive? From now on, this is all we're going to do." That night, Minato was wandering through the city as usual, this time in Harajuku. He scanned the area with his mana. Just as he thought, this place was also full of monsters. Even after continuously wiping them out, their numbers weren't decreasing. What the hell was going on? Just then, Minato suddenly sensed something. In the distance, a child was cornered by a magic beast. He rushed over. Without hesitation, he killed the beast. Minato looked at the child and asked, "Hey, are you okay?" But the child didn't answer, instead raising a camera to take a picture of him. But Minato was a step ahead, using magic to vanish in an instant. From a safe distance, Minato sighed. "Takes a picture without even a thank you. What's wrong with people these days? I need to get a mask next time." Then, he headed home. The next afternoon, after school, Minato and Zuika returned to the mansion to continue their training. As usual, Zuika was the first to collapse. She lay on the ground, panting heavily. Minato stood beside her, feeling a bit helpless. The match was only a few days away. She was improving, but in every aspect, she was still no match for Ruka. There was no way Zuika could win if things continued like this. Thinking this, he suddenly said, "Sometimes, giving up is also an option." Hearing this, Zuika lowered her head. But she quickly stood up and whispered, "I've always been compared to my sister. I can't beat her in anything. I've been forced to give up so many things." But magic was the one thing she refused to give up. Minato looked at her and said without hesitation, "But at this rate, you can't win." Zuika didn't give up. "Then let's train harder." Minato smiled. "No holding back then." "Sounds good," Zuika said with excitement. She wasn't giving up. So after that, Minato taught Zuika even more. And they sparred continuously, until Zuika was completely exhausted. A few days later, Zuika could finally hold her ground for a long time. Minato was very satisfied. "You passed." Zuika cheered happily. "I finally did it." Minato praised her. "Good job, Zuika." Zuika was proud. All her hard work had paid off. A few days later, the day of the practice match finally arrived. Minato and Zuika stood in front of the training ground. But as soon as they arrived, the scene inside shocked them. The training ground was packed with people. The moment the reporters saw Zuika, they swarmed her with microphones, bombarding her with questions. Zuika was so bewildered she froze, not understanding what was happening. Minato frowned. Just for a match between students? This shows how important the noble magic bloodline is. It wasn't just reporters. Many students had come to watch as well. Seeing the scene, Minato couldn't help but comment, "Don't you think this is a bit much? A magic battle is a rare event. It feels like a major spectacle." But when he got no reply, he turned to see Zuika curled up in a ball. Just then, an announcement boomed. "Will the two contestants please proceed to the arena?" Zuika jumped up, ready to run. Seeing she wasn't okay, Minato called her back. "Zuika." Zuika, trembling, asked, "What?" Minato smiled encouragingly, "Good luck." Hearing this, Zuika suddenly froze. Then she smiled. Confidence slowly returned to her face. She said firmly, "Of course." She then walked toward the arena, thinking, "Minato is so mysterious. His words echo in my chest." Soon, Zuika stood before Ruka. Ruka looked at her and said sternly, "So you didn't run away?" "Of course not," Zuika replied confidently. Ruka sneered. So naive. You think you have a chance against someone like me? She then raised an eyebrow, looking at Zuika with absolute certainty of her victory. Zuika didn't back down, shouting, I will definitely win! Hearing this, Ruka clicked her tongue. It seems you've improved in the past 2 weeks. Zuika didn't answer. She knew her sister was strong. The power gap between them was huge. But Zuika wouldn't lose. Just then, a voice announced, Let the match begin! Instantly, both Mizuha sisters entered a combat stance. Zuika was the first to summon magic, shortening her incantation to save mana. At the same time, Ruka wasn't idle, summoning her own magic. Minato observed from the side. Ruka seems to know the basics of a duel between sorcerers. Zuika is too nervous and forgot to move. She's lost the advantage of a fast incantation. Just as he thought, Ruka closed the distance in an instant. They both unleashed level 1 water magic. 2 raging waves of water collided. But due to her weaker mana, Zuika's wave was quickly dispersed, and she was hit by Ruka's, though she managed to dispel it. Zuika was shocked. I dispelled it? I'm getting stronger. Even Ruka couldn't help but remark, in just 2 weeks, you've gotten stronger. Hearing this, Zuika was overjoyed. This was the first time her sister had praised her. Seeing her reaction, Ruka said with annoyance, What's there to be happy about? It was just a comparison. I wasn't praising you. With that, Ruka's gaze became more determined. She said coldly, Now I'm raising the magic level. She once again summoned her water wave. Zuika didn't dare be careless, quickly summoning magic to defend. In an instant, level 2 water magic appeared. It danced in the air, then split into smaller water bubbles, which then furiously shot toward Zuika. She couldn't defend and was sent flying by the bubbles. Her body fell like a broken kite at Minato's feet. Looking at Zuika, Minato felt a bit helpless. In terms of incantation speed, Zuika had a higher chance of winning, but her opponent was simply stronger. While he was thinking, Ruka walked over and said coldly, Are you that heartless? You're not going to help her? You protected her before, didn't you? No need, Minato replied without hesitation. This made Ruka's eyes widen in shock. Just then, Zuika stood up, her body still trembling. Ruka was even more shocked. How is that possible? I only attacked you with level 2 magic. How are you still standing? Biting her lip, Zuika said firmly, I won't lose. Magic was the only thing she had. Even if she lost everything, she wouldn't give up. With that, Zuika summoned her magic again. Ruka snorted and quickly summoned magic to defend. In an instant, 2 water-based magics clashed fiercely. But soon, Zuika weakened, repeating over and over, I will definitely win. I won't give up. Then she collapsed, powerless. The outcome was decided. Zuika had exhausted her mana. The victory belonged to Ruka. Zuika lay on the ground, trembling. Her fists clenched. I couldn't do anything. Nothing at all. Minato sighed and helped Zuika up. It was a battle of mana control, but she lost due to her lower mana pool. Just then, Ruka said indifferently, Now do you understand? She has no talent. Kusanagi, you must have thought so too. Minato replied nonchalantly, It's true, she has no talent. Zuika is clumsy and improves very slowly. She's incompetent and even weaker in actual combat. But there's one thing I'm very satisfied with about Zuika. She's very hardworking and trains like a fool. Hearing this, Zuika looked at him in surprise. Ruka, on the other hand, didn't care much, and this is the result. But before she could finish, Minato cut her off coldly. It's true she lost, but I like hardworking people like Zuika. This made Zuika cry with emotion. It was the first time someone had acknowledged her efforts. Minato ignored her and continued, Zuika is my student. I find it very annoying when you speak ill of her. The more Zuika heard, the more emotional she became, tears streaming down her face. Ruka snorted again. Someone with a mana level of 100 is being a bit too pretentious. Minato shrugged, and that person with 100 mana is going to defeat you. Ruka was enraged by him. You've got a big mouth. Fine, I don't want to waste my energy on an opponent like you. Ryuji then excitedly said, Finally, my turn. Ruka walked past him and said coldly, Finish it quickly. Ryuji chuckled and nodded. No problem. On the other side, Minato had carried the injured Zuika back to her seat. He set her down and said, Focus on my match. Zuika nodded. But just then, she realized something. Her body didn't hurt at all. Her wounds were healed. Minato, unaware of her thoughts, walked onto the arena. Even though he had boasted that 100 mana was enough to beat Ryuji, he knew he wouldn't stand a chance if he didn't go all out. He would keep his mana at 100, use non-elemental magic without incantations, and not use a magic barrier. If he took a direct hit, he might get logged out for good. The more he thought, the more exciting it got. Ryuji, seeing Minato step into the arena, shouted excitedly, "Sorry, little bro. I'm not planning on holding back." Minato smiled back. "That's fine. I'll hold back for you." In an instant, the entire stadium erupted with cheers. "Ryuji, don't go all out. Be gentle with him." In the arena, Ryuji unleashed his mana. Minato estimated it to be around 8,000. To his past self, it was nothing, but now he could only use about 100 mana. Instantly, the second match between Minato and Ryuji officially began. Ryuji summoned his magic and said with a grin, "Don't hate me for this." This one move would be enough to test if Minato was the one who defeated the expelled students. Ryuji wanted to see if he could withstand his full power attack, but before he could even make a move, a beam of mana shot straight into the middle of his forehead. Minato sneered, "Too slow." This stunned the audience. It was over in less than 3 seconds? Because Ryuji was knocked out, the victory went to Minato. Ruka rushed to check on Ryuji, her heart pounding in shock. Minato knocked Ryuji out with a single blow? She didn't hear him chant any spells. What the hell did he just do? While Ruka was still thinking, Minato's mocking voice reached her ears. "I did just as you wished and ended it quickly." Zuika, watching from the side, cheered happily. "Awesome! He really beat him!" Ruka then glared at Minato and said, "It seems you have some talent." Minato just laughed. "Better than you is all that matters." "Still can't shut that mouth of yours," Ruka snarled, unleashing her full mana. Minato estimated it to be around 10,000, even stronger than Ryuji. While the two were facing off, the announcer's voice boomed again. "A shocking event has occurred after the second match. Contestant Kusanagi's fighting style has garnered a lot of attention from the audience. The final match will be between Minato and Ruka. Everyone is waiting to see who will emerge victorious." As soon as the match was declared to have started, Minato attacked Ruka without holding back. Ruka, on the other hand, was calm, summoning her magic to counter. Minato knew that with only 100 mana, his spells wouldn't be strong. So if he didn't aim straight for Ruka's forehead, he wouldn't be able to damage her at all. Ruka also realized she shouldn't move much and should focus on defense. Just as Minato thought, Ruka easily defended, standing still and attacking him with water waves. A series of powerful water jets, sharp as knives, shot toward him. But what happened next shocked Ruka. Minato easily dispelled all her magic without a single hair out of place. Ruka's eyes widened in disbelief. He didn't even use magic. What the hell did this kid do? Not just her, the students in the audience were also confused, whispering among themselves. Shouldn't he have been hit? He's not even wet. What's going on? Zuika, on the other hand, wasn't surprised. She was just wondering what technique Minato used to do that. Ruka was furious that Minato had nullified her attack. She was sure he was hiding some trick. Thinking this, she attacked again. But this time, Minato moved, seemingly dancing in the air. He gracefully dodged all the water jets Ruka had fired. Seeing this, Ruka's pupils contracted in disbelief. "You dodged all my attacks without even using magic?" Zuika, watching from the side, also frowned. A sorcerer could use another magic to counterattack. 2 attacks would somewhat cancel each other out. Everyone knew that if you couldn't do that, getting injured was inevitable. A level 2 technique would have a different scale and speed than a level 1. There was no way a guy like that could dodge everything without getting hurt. Ruka was sure Minato was just a reckless fool. Minato seemed to know what she was thinking and chuckled. "But it's fine. If you can feel mana, dodging such weak attacks is no problem. Well, you need to be a bit tough too." Just then, Ruka began to cast a level 3 water spell. In an instant, a water wave shaped like an arrow appeared, hurtling toward Minato. Seeing this, the audience gasped. "Level 3 magic! If he gets hit by that, he's done for!" With a loud bang, the water arrow exploded, sending water splashing everywhere. Ruka collapsed to the ground, exhausted but satisfied. There's no way he could have blocked that. But just then, a beam of magic shot from a distance and hit her in the forehead. When she saw who it was, Ruka exclaimed in shock, "Impossible! How are you still okay? How did you dodge it? Minato replied nonchalantly, I used a magic to absorb your magic and simply walked through the center of the attack. The air went completely still. Ruka sat there, stunned, for a long time. Just when Minato thought she wouldn't say anything, she suddenly threw her head back and laughed loudly. Just walk through it? So I lost? Of course, the result was clear. The victory belonged to Minato. Zuika rushed over and asked, Are you okay? Minato nodded. Yeah, we're both fine. I won. Zuika smiled and nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. Seeing them so happy, Ruka stood up and said indifferently, As promised, I won't mention this again. You can do whatever you want. Hearing this, Minato sighed, still so arrogant. Thinking this, he suddenly joked, Zuika's wounds are quite shallow. You went too easy on her. It would have been nice if our match was like that too. Ruka snapped back, No way! Minato ignored her and continued, Zuika has improved a lot in just 2 weeks. You must have noticed that, right? Don't be too overprotective of her. Ruka then firmly promised, I will definitely get stronger so you don't have to worry about me anymore. I promise. Ruka looked at the two of them, hesitated for a long time, then nodded. Yeah, you're right. Because of this battle, the two Mizuha sisters had grown closer. Minato, watching them, felt happy for some reason. Just then, dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky, along with a terrifying presence that startled Minato. He quickly looked up, his face instantly turning grave. This abnormal mana, is it a catastrophe? Ruka and Zuika also realized this, their faces turning pale. At the same time, in the classroom, Jun's crew was rummaging through Minato's desk, throwing things all over the floor. Jun's lackey searched for a while but found nothing. He only has books and stuff. This guy's a model student. Biting his lip, Jun said, There has to be something. Otherwise, how could he use that kind of magic? But just then, his lackey saw something and shouted, What the hell is that? Jun thought he had found something and quickly looked over. But what he saw horrified him. The sky outside was dyed a terrifying blood red. The three of them were instantly bewildered. As if remembering something, one of the lackeys screamed in terror, It's a catastrophe! How can it be a catastrophe? Outside the arena, the reporters and students were in a state of panic. No one expected a catastrophe to strike the Magic Academy. Minato's face was also grim. How could a catastrophe happen right now? Don't tell me this is related to the incident in Shinjuku. The first catastrophe also happened in Shinjuku. Was this just a coincidence, or was there some kind of plan? While he was thinking, magic beasts began to emerge from the spatial rift. The students screamed and ran. The instructor was also there, trying to calm them down, but who could stay calm at a time like this? Just then, a powerful magic blast appeared, killing the beasts attacking the students. The one who acted was none other than Minato. He shouted, Calm down! His voice silenced the students. Although still panicked, they stopped running and stood still. Minato was satisfied with this. He looked at everyone and said, In the early stages of a catastrophe, only low-level monsters appear. It's best we evacuate to the gymnasium. Then, he looked at Ruka's group and said, You three should go too. Hearing this, they were shocked. What are you planning to do, Kusanagi? Minato said nonchalantly, I have to save the people trapped in the buildings. The instructor looked at him, worried. You're going alone? You're being too reckless. Ryuji quickly spoke up. I'll go too. That should be fine, right, sir? The instructor was still hesitating, but he continued, You saw this kid's abilities, didn't you? The instructor hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, but don't overdo it. Ryuji chuckled. How could I die? Then he glanced at Minato. Minato didn't say anything, just shrugged. Then he looked at Zuika and said, All right, I'm off. A look of worry crossed Zuika's face. She said in a low voice, Be careful. Meanwhile, Ryuji had already said, I'm going ahead, kid. My current speed allows me to run at 10 meters per second. Let's see if Minato can keep up. But Ryuji was overthinking it. Minato had already summoned his magic and taken off, zipping past Ryuji like a bolt of lightning. He grinned, I'm going ahead, senpai. Ryuji's eyes widened in disbelief. What kind of demonic speed is that? Hey, wait up! He quickly ran after him, but just being fast wasn't enough. I'll observe this kid's true abilities down to the last detail, and of course, I'll save people along the way. Minato couldn't care less about Ryuji. He was using his mana to scan the entire academy. There were 58 people who could use magic in the building. but there might be people who couldn't. If that was the case, he'd have to check each floor carefully. Magic beasts had already invaded the academy building, and some students were trapped in their classrooms. Minato saw this as he jumped in through a window. Without hesitation, he used magic to annihilate the beasts. His magic was incredibly powerful. Wherever it passed, beasts fell. While Minato was focused on killing the beasts inside the classroom, one from outside tried to ambush him. It was as if Minato had eyes in the back of his head. He casually flicked his wrist, and a blast of mana tore the beast to shreds. Before long, Ryuji arrived, asking frantically, "Hey, is everyone okay?" But by then, Minato had already wiped out all the beasts. The room was filled with their corpses. He walked past Ryuji and said nonchalantly, "I'll leave the evacuation of the trapped students to you." Ryuji was shocked. "Hey, wait, it's dangerous to go alone." But there was no one behind him anymore. He grumbled, "Where did he go so fast?" Ryuji thought Minato considered him a burden. And what could he say? It might be true. He had dealt with these beasts in less than a second. Who is this kid, really? Minato didn't know what he was thinking. He was still running like crazy. Outside, he could use magic bullets to kill them in one shot, but in a confined space, he might accidentally hurt someone. So he had no choice but to continuously use low-level magic to take them down. But that was enough. Minato easily defeated the beasts with low-level magic, and he saved a lot of people. Although it would take a bit of time, if he had to continuously escort the students he saved to the gymnasium, he had someone to help him with that. Ryuji always arrived late, but now he was fighting beasts outside, roaring, "I'll take down all the beasts! You guys run to the gymnasium!" But just as Ryuji finished speaking, a sudden scream startled him. "What's wrong?" When he looked back, he saw the students being enveloped by magic, then gently lowered to the ground. Ryuji frowned. What is Minato doing? Who is this guy, exactly? Minato looked down from above and smiled at Ryuji's reaction. He's quite worried about his juniors. They should be fine. But just then, he seemed to sense something. In a secluded corner of the building, a female student was trembling in fear, because she was surrounded by magic beasts. She leaned against the wall, crying in fear. The student couldn't do anything. She was helpless, only able to scream for help. "Someone, please save me." In a life-or-death moment, a beam of light suddenly shot past, making the student's eyes widen in shock. She recognized this light from before. She had been saved by this thing before. While the student was still confused, Minato landed from above and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" The student recognized Minato and stammered, "Kusanagi, was it you who saved me?" Yeah, that was me," Minato nodded. He then helped her up. The student asked again, "That time during the practical class, was that you too?" Minato hesitated for a moment before saying, "Yeah, some unexpected things happened then." Hearing the answer, the student bowed gratefully. "Thank you for saving my life twice." Minato just smiled and said, "It's nothing. It wasn't a big deal." Facing her two-time savior, the student suddenly felt her heart flutter, and her cheeks turned red. Just then, Ryuji ran up from below and shouted, "Who's next to be saved?" Minato looked at the student and said, "Just follow him, and you'll be safe. I'm off." The student still wanted to call him back, but he was already gone. Even Ryuji was at a loss. Minato didn't care what they thought and continued upward. There were still quite a few students surrounded. He couldn't wait for the police to arrive. He had to do something. Meanwhile, at the Prime Minister's residence, due to the catastrophe at the Magic Academy, high-ranking officials were all present. The Prime Minister sat at the head of the table and said gravely, "A catastrophe has occurred at Kamui Magic Academy." The officials around him started whispering, "Why did that horror happen to us? There haven't been any catastrophes since the last one 50 years ago. What do we do?" The Prime Minister said sternly, "We are still trying to contact the Monster Disposal Unit at the City Police Department and the Noble Sorcerers. The Ground Self-Defense Force is also on standby." The high-ranking officials weren't satisfied, but the Self-Defense Force's sorcerers only handle natural disasters. No one has experience fighting magic beasts. The Prime Minister knew that. This was the consequence of living comfortably without worrying about facing a catastrophe. They could only rely on the police and noble sorcerers. The more he thought, the tighter his fists clenched. The disaster from 50 years ago was happening again, but Ichikami Minato was no longer here. Who would save them? At the same time, a police car was rushing toward the Magic Academy. The female officer driving asked, Did a catastrophe really happen? A deep male voice replied, "Yes, there's no mistaking it." The female officer panicked. "But we've been at peace for so many years. So this peace was only temporary?" Inspector Shido Sugo then smiled. "But that's okay. That's why we're here." The female officer, Sergeant Sundar Karen, hesitated for a moment before saying, "I'll do my best." Soon, the two of them were heading to the scene. At the same time, a helicopter appeared over the Magic Academy. It wasn't rescuers, but reporters. They were reporting on the beast attack to the entire country. The reporters who were already at the academy had been evacuated to a safe place and were also reporting live. The instructor and students who could use magic were outside, trying to fight off the low-level beasts. The news of this catastrophe was a hot topic. Everyone was glued to their screens. Everyone was worried. The situation was really bad. The area next to the Magic Academy was also being attacked by beasts, and the nearby residents were in a state of panic. And things were already out of the government's control. The people of Japan were all focused on the Magic Academy. Everyone was waiting for news from the media. Some were worried because they were near the area, while others feared the catastrophe would continue like 50 years ago. In short, all of Japan was in a state of panic. At the Magic Academy, Minato was still relentlessly killing beasts to save people, but the beasts were flooding into the school in large numbers. It was almost time for Phase 2. Each phase would bring new, stronger monsters. Moreover, they would keep appearing no matter how many were killed. As long as the boss was alive, the beasts would keep swarming. The boss would reveal itself in the final phase. Minato had to hold out until then. The more he thought, the more annoying it got. A catastrophe like this was a real pain. After saving people from the monsters, Minato used magic to teleport them downstairs. There were a total of 20 people this time, scattered all over, so just saving them was difficult. But Minato had no intention of giving up. He ran back upstairs to continue. Meanwhile, inside a classroom, Jun was trying to kill the beast that had broken in. But his mana wasn't enough. Before long, he was panting, muttering, "It's no use. I can't attack anymore." Because among the attackers were not just normal beasts, but also an ogre soldier. They were terrified, scared enough to wet their pants. Jun still couldn't accept it and shouted, "That Kusanagi guy took it down in one hit. Why can't I do the same?" Just as he said that, a contemptuous voice came from behind him. "Because you're weak as hell." Jun's eyes widened. Before he could see who it was, a brilliant flame shot out. It instantly incinerated the ogre soldier, turning it to ash before the horrified eyes of the three of them. Only then did Jun see who it was. It was the person he wanted to see the least, Minato. After acting, Minato turned and left without a word. Jun bit his lip fiercely. Again, he had been saved by him again. He couldn't accept it, and ran after Minato, shouting, "Stop, right there!" Minato stopped. Jun demanded, "Why did you save me? You should hate me. So why?" Minato shrugged. "No reason. I saved you because I could. That's all." Hearing this, Jun's body trembled. He muttered, "You saved me because you could? Is that all you have to say?" But Jun couldn't accept this reason. He roared, "Stop messing with me! You're just a weakling!" He said Minato couldn't even use magic properly. So how did he get so strong so fast? Minato looked at Jun and said coldly, "Kusanagi Minato died in that traffic accident. I was reincarnated into his body." Jun couldn't believe it. "What? Can people get stronger after cheating death? I should be stronger than you. But why? Why am I losing to someone like you?" "Strong? Truly strong people don't oppress the weak," Minato snorted. He looked at him and said coldly, "And the weak don't humiliate those weaker than them. You've been consumed by your own arrogance and blindly believe you're strong." Now, Jun didn't even dare to think about fighting him. Minato then left, leaving Jun standing there alone. Before long, he collapsed to the ground in despair. He knew he was running away from the fact that he hadn't gotten any stronger since middle school. Jun had been taking out his stress and frustration on those weaker than him. But then he was saved by Minato, someone he considered the weakest, and he couldn't accept the truth. Jun's two lackeys were also in an awkward position. They had just been saved by Minato. They wanted to ask Jun what to do, but he was in an even worse state. Tears of regret and shame streamed down his face. Minato, of course, had no idea what was going on with them. He was still relentlessly running upstairs, killing beasts and saving people. The higher he went, the more high-level beasts he encountered. Ogre soldiers had appeared. But Minato wasn't fazed at all. calmly using magic to attack the ogre soldier. But it dodged his first attack. Minato didn't stop there. He used a higher-level magic. With a loud bang, smoke and fire erupted. The ogre soldier was quickly consumed by the flames. Minato looked at the pile of ash before him, his face expressionless. He thought to himself, the number of ogre soldiers is increasing. That means the boss will appear soon. With that thought, Minato walked over to the students cowering in a corner and reassured them, "Calm down. Everything's okay now." Meanwhile, down below, Ryuji was complaining loudly, "That little punk, dumping everything on me!" Even while complaining, his hands never stopped summoning magic to kill the beasts. There were so many beasts, relentlessly chasing and attacking the students. Ryuji protected the students behind him while attacking the beasts. He looked at the students and said, "I'll protect you. Just follow me and don't worry." Seeing his cool and reliable demeanor, the students were all in awe. But even though Ryuji said that, with beasts swarming everywhere, what could he do? While he was wondering, Minato landed from above and said nonchalantly, "Let me help you." Ryuji jumped at the sound. "You scared me! Don't just appear out of thin air like that!" Minato ignored him. "Run as soon as I'm done with these guys." Ryuji was hesitant. "Huh? But with this many, how can you maybe we should take another route?" As soon as he finished speaking, a brilliant flame erupted, consuming the beasts in a sea of fire. The one who acted was, of course, Minato. This stunned all the students, including Ryuji. Seeing this, Minato reminded them, "What are you staring at? Let's go." Only then did Ryuji snap out of it and lead the other students away. Ryuji kept looking back as he ran. He saw Minato just casually wave his hand, and a blast of mana wiped out the beasts chasing the students. The more Ryuji watched, the more awestruck he became. So cool. Amazing. This kid is really something. Minato was still focused on stopping the beasts. After finishing them off, he looked around. Everyone's gone, right? I should go back and check one more time. Elsewhere, in another corner of the academy, the instructor and the students with mana were trying to hold their ground. Zuika was also there, but she was starting to run out of mana, stumbling and about to fall. Luckily, Ruka caught her. Ruka said coldly, "If you can't do it, go inside. You're getting in everyone's way." Zuika immediately shook her head. "I can still fight. We don't have time to rest." Ruka frowned but didn't know what to say. She could only watch as Zuika struggled to use magic to attack the beasts. Just then, Ryuji returned with the other students. "I've brought back the trapped students." The instructor praised him. "Good job, get them inside." Ryuji left that task to others and ran over to the Mizuha sisters. "How's the situation?" Ruka sighed, "We can't hold them back much longer." Zuika then asked, "Where's Kusanagi?" Ryuji chuckled. "That kid is fine. He's still kicking and raising hell over there." "Really?" Zuika sighed in relief. Ryuji didn't think much of it and started using magic to attack the beasts with everyone else, but he kept talking. "That Kusanagi kid is really something. With him here, we'll get through this catastrophe easily." Zuika nodded in agreement. "I think so too, senpai. With Kusanagi, we're sure to—" But before she could finish, the ground suddenly shook violently, startling everyone. The instructor shouted, "Evacuate! Evacuate now!" Because in front of them were too many magic beasts. And they weren't low-level beasts, but ogre soldiers. Ryuji panicked. "Too many monsters! We have to get out of here!" Everyone heard and quickly turned to run. Even Ryuji and the Mizuha sisters were no exception. They couldn't possibly face the horde of beasts before them. But after running for a short while, Zuika suddenly sensed something and looked back. She saw the beasts being attacked by magic, fresh blood raining down. The three of them were a bit stunned. The magic police had arrived. The leader was Inspector Sugo. He urgently ordered, "Wipe them out quickly. Prioritize the students' safety." Soon, the other officers began to attack the beasts. Seeing this, the students behind them sighed in relief. They were finally saved. Sugo shouted while fighting, "Don't worry, we'll get you out of here. Please evacuate as instructed." But Zuika suggested, "We'll support you." Sugo looked at her, surprised, and said firmly, "Civilians like you should evacuate to the gymnasium." Before Zuika could reply, Ruka cut in, "We're not civilians. We're sorcerers." Sugo hesitated for a moment, then agreed. "All right then, support us from the perimeter." To be honest, the number of reinforcements was too small, so they had to rely on their help. Look at how pathetic the police force is now. At the same time, Karin was healing the other students. Elsewhere, on a building in the academy, Minato saw the police cars arrive and sighed in relief. Finally, the police are here. I'll leave the rest to them. But the police seem to have arrived even before the ground self-defense force. A catastrophe is a national-level event, after all. How could a country be so unprepared? But who knows? It's possible. This country has been resting on its laurels for a while. Well, for now, he'd just do his best and see if any other students were trapped. At the same time, in the helicopter above, the reporter saw the entire scene below. She began to report, "It seems the police have arrived, but the number of beasts shows no sign of decreasing. The entire nation is waiting for the appearance of the noble sorcerers." After all, events like this required them to act. Everyone was hoping for the noble sorcerers' help. Everyone believed the noble sorcerers would appear soon. The reporter at the scene looked straight into the camera and shouted, "Please appear soon, noble sorcerers." However, in the room of the Fuyuka family head, upon hearing the butler's report, he said coldly, "Let them be." The butler hesitated. "Are you sure, sir?" The Fuyuka family head snorted. "The police are enough to handle a small catastrophe like this. A noble sorcerer like me doesn't need to get involved." With that, he got up to leave. The butler asked, "Where are you going, sir?" "To sleep," the Fuyuka family head replied coldly. The butler didn't object. "Have a good night's sleep, sir." At the same time, at the Magic Academy, Sugo was trying to fight off the beasts. But the situation was getting worse. He looked at his subordinate and asked, "Can you handle the ones near the entrance?" The other shook his head. "No, there are too many of them there." Sugo's face instantly turned grave. They were appearing faster than he had expected. They wouldn't have time to evacuate the people. Supporting the perimeter was the most important thing, but they hadn't even arrived yet. Now they could only rely on the noble sorcerers, but they couldn't even contact them. The more Sugo thought, the more frustrated he became. Damn it, where are those useless people at times like this? They were useless when needed, and they had to rely on students for help. It showed how pathetic Japan's military strength was now. Sugo frowned fiercely. He had read about this. It was called a catastrophe for a reason. Did the people of Japan in the past also face this? And if the boss appeared now, they'd be screwed. No sooner had he thought it than the ground shook again, scaring everyone. Sugo bit his lip. Impossible. Is that Ogre General the boss? Zuika's face was also grim. That monster rarely appears in this area, and only a noble sorcerer is strong enough to defeat it. Zuika also knew that you needed magic of at least level 5 to defeat it, but no one here could use something that high level. While everyone was panicking, a brilliant flame shot out. Ruka, without hesitation, stood in front of Zuika. Ruka collapsed in front of Zuika. This sent her into a state of panic, her eyes filled with worry. Ruka lay on the ground, her body trembling. She looked up at Zuika and said, "Run, Zuika." But Zuika just sat there, frozen, unable to move. While everyone else had panicked and fled, Zuika held Ruka tightly, her eyes filled with pleading. Sugo and the other magic police were trying to fight back, but they were no match for the beast. Ryuji was also weakened and couldn't do anything more. But in front of them, a figure emerged from the brilliant flames. Seeing it, everyone's face turned grim. They seemed to have accepted their fate. They were going to die here. Zuika still held Ruka tightly, screaming, "Kusanagi, please save us! Kusanagi!" The flames were now burning fiercely, rushing toward everyone. Zuika screamed in desperation, "Minato!" The heat was getting closer and closer. The monster was also approaching. But just then, the monster suddenly stopped. It saw something blocking its path. A large amount of mana was attacking it from the sky. At the same time, a figure appeared in front of Zuika. It was Minato. He said seriously, "Sorry, I'm late. I made you wait, Zuika." Seeing him, Zuika was overjoyed, but Ruka's condition was bad. Her tears started to fall again. Kusanagi, Minato went to check on her. "It's okay. She just passed out." He then placed his hand on her and began to heal her. Zuika was still anxious, silently waiting. Minato continued to heal Ruka. After a long time, he stood up. Zuika was startled and called out to him. Minato looked at her and said nonchalantly, "I'll take care of this, boss." Zuika was stunned for a moment, then nodded, "Okay." Immediately, the entire area was protected by a defensive magic. Zuika was shocked. "What is this?" Ruka's wounds were also healing quickly. The more Zuika watched, the more amazed she became. The other students, feeling this magic for the first time, were stunned. Karen came out and saw the scene, her eyes widening. Is this level 3 holy magic healing? Even I can't use it. Who could? She then ran to Sugo and asked worriedly, "Senpai, are you okay?" Sugo shook his head. "I'm fine, just a little exhausted." Karen helped him up and looked around asking, "What's going on?" Sugo shook his head. "I'm not sure, but we have to protect the people to our last breath." Karen was worried. "That's too dangerous, Senpai. You could die out there." Biting his lip, Sugo said firmly, "But if we don't do something, everyone here will die." Karen knew this, but she still said worriedly, "This is already impossible. In the end, everyone will, our entire force is already down." Just as she said, a corner of the academy was engulfed in flames. All the magic police were down. Sugo bit his lip, his eyes filled with anger. The defense force or the noble sorcerers, no one came. We can't do anything more. The magic police had given up. The battle against the beasts was getting worse. The smoke and fire were getting more intense. The reporters at the scene were panicking. Impossible. The police too? Is this the end for us? The people watching the live broadcast were also extremely worried. Everyone was on edge. But at the scene, Minato was walking alone toward the monster. Seeing this, Karen exclaimed in shock, "A student is walking straight toward the demons." "Does he want to die?" Sugo was equally panicked and shouted, "Hey, kid, get out of there." But Minato didn't hear him. He soon stood face to face with the monster. Minato snorted, "You seem to like doing whatever you want." The monster looked at him, muttering, "Kill, kill." That terrifying, deep voice echoed throughout the area, panicking the students. Even Sugo and Karen were scared. The pressure it exuded made everyone terrified. Just then, a world-shaking explosion occurred. Minato coldly ordered, "Shut up." The monster was attacked by him and angrily roared. The low-level beast immediately attacked him. Minato frowned. "When facing the world's worst catastrophe, I went all out. But this time, I have to hold back because of the people around." While Minato was thinking, a blast of lightning magic shot toward him, instantly enveloping him. Sugo saw this and panicked. Is he dead? Everyone around was waiting to see if Minato was still alive. While everyone was wondering, a burst of magic appeared, blinding everyone. This magic came from Minato's hand. They began to dance in the air, relentlessly killing the beasts. Seeing this, Sugo was horrified. What is that? Who is that student? Not just them, the reporters at the scene also noticed Minato's appearance, but they couldn't see his face. The cameraman wanted to get closer to get a better look, but he was attacked by magic, preventing him from achieving his goal. The one who acted was Zuika. Minato had tried so hard to hide his true power. This way, he could fight without distractions. At the same time, in the battle, dozens of magic beams from both of Minato's hands were dancing in the air. Wherever they passed, beasts fell. This stunned the inexperienced students. "He's so cool! Can we really be saved? He can do it!" But they didn't have time to be distracted. There were still low-level beasts. But luckily, there were still people who could use magic to take them down. Sugo shouted while fighting, "There has to be something we can do. Support him." Minato, fighting the boss, couldn't help but smile. The police of this era aren't so bad. With that thought, he immediately waved his hand, and the magic beams exploded. The boss was now extremely angry and quickly summoned its magic. Seeing this, Sugo panicked. "Level 6 magic? That's almost equivalent to a noble sorcerer. We can't do anything anymore." The magic the boss cast was level 6, Dragon's Fire Roar. Smoke and fire erupted again. The students were instantly terrified. The reporters at the scene were equally desperate. Sugo watched helplessly as the flames rushed toward them. The flames were so brilliant they could swallow everything. They were a terrifying blood-red color. The students were now desperate. Even Karen could only pray for the gods to save them. Sugo thought that no matter how strong Minato was, he couldn't possibly defeat that thing. There was no way to survive. The only one who believed in Minato now was Zuika. She believed he could definitely do it. If it was Minato, he definitely could. Minato would surely survive and save everyone here. At the same time, Minato was silently observing the Ogre General. It was big, but the bigger they are, the slower they are. This Ogre General was trying to use level 6 magic. So if he held back, he couldn't do anything to it. He really didn't want to do this, but he had no choice. Thinking this, Minato immediately held out his hand, summoning two types of magic at once. In an instant, he unleashed his own mana. Zuika stared blankly at the huge amount of mana dancing before her. She was shocked, but more than that, she was happy. Under everyone's surprised gaze, a giant snake made of water magic appeared. Sugo was even more shocked. Is that composite magic? At the same time, the Ogre General's fire dragon rushed forward. Minato's water snake didn't back down and directly confronted it. With a loud bang, the two powerful forces collided. They coiled around each other, one fire, one water, clashing fiercely. The Ogre General below was frantically casting magic, muttering incomprehensible words, slaughter, humans, die. Soon, the fire dragon grew even larger and rushed forward with great momentum. Minato sneered at the sight. His giant water snake rushed toward the fire dragon and destroyed it in an instant. But it wasn't dead yet. The water snake continued on its path and quickly reached the Ogre General. It was swallowed by the water wave, only able to mutter two words before it died. Why? Minato watched it slowly disappear without a change in expression. He snorted, "Because you're out of practice, that's why." Even so, Minato thought it could have done more, but it seemed weaker than he had expected. After the boss died, the sky over the Magic Academy returned to its clear state. Minato looked up at the sky and smiled. Only then did the students snap out of it. They had been saved. Immediately, they all started cheering for surviving the gates of hell. Even the reporters at the scene were no exception, crying with joy. Karen also sighed in relief. It's safe now. The catastrophe is over. But Sugo was very surprised. Incredible. A student like Minato was able to defeat an Ogre General. Something that even a noble sorcerer might not be able to defeat so cleanly and quickly. Who are you, really? But before he could figure it out, his legs gave out, and he fell. He clicked his tongue. It seems even my knees are on strike. On the other side, Minato had walked over to Zuika and said, with a smile, I did it. Zuika looked up at him, her eyes welling with tears. Yes, I believed you could do it. Thank you, Minato. It's nothing. Minato shook his head and smiled. While the two were talking, the other students rushed over, startling Minato. Before he could understand what was happening, he was surrounded by a crowd of students who were praising him to the high heavens. Minato sighed in frustration. In the end, I couldn't escape the fate of being noticed. My future looks as bleak as the sky just now. Seeing his reaction, Zuika couldn't help but smile. You seem to be having a hard time. The next day, the media all reported on the catastrophe at the Magic Academy, including the fact that it was stopped by a mysterious student. But everyone at the academy knew that mysterious student was Minato. After the catastrophe, the number of people surrounding Minato grew even larger. Every time he went to class, he was surrounded by them, asking all sorts of questions, which annoyed him. Of course, there were also those who were dissatisfied. It seems someone's getting a big head. How can a student like him be so strong? The students started arguing in class, divided into two factions, one supporting Minato, the other not believing him. Taking advantage of the chaos, Minato slipped out. He was really afraid of them. Just then, Zuika appeared beside him and joked, Tough, huh? Minato snorted. Don't even talk about it. Zuika chuckled. You're the hero who protected everyone. There's nothing you can do about it. Minato ignored her and changed the subject. You were transferred to the S-class too, right? Zuika nodded nonchalantly. It's probably because of that practice match and the recent incident. Minato frowned. You don't seem happy about it. Zuika turned her head away and muttered, I am. After all, someone is there. Minato didn't think much of her words and asked, Come to think of it, how's Ruka? Zuika smiled, She's fine, and we're closer now. Zuika was really happy about this. It was all thanks to Minato. Her eyes sparkling, she looked at Minato and said sincerely, Thank you. Meeting you here was my good fortune. Hearing this, Minato flicked her forehead. Zuika asked, confused. What was that for? Minato pouted. You've thanked me once. Why do you keep saying it? Then he turned and walked away. Zuika watched him go and then smiled. It seemed her young heart had been stirred. Elsewhere, at the Prime Minister's conference room, the high-ranking officials were all present. The Prime Minister was constantly on the phone. After a while, he said, With this, the phone calls with other countries are officially over. Someone asked, Finding the cause of the second catastrophe won't be easy, right? The Prime Minister nodded. They've done their best to find a way to deal with it. The rumors about the student who defeated the final boss, they continued to think about the catastrophe and the fact that Minato had destroyed the ogre general. On the other side, on the rooftop of the Magic Academy, Minato was once again summoned. This time it was Ruka and Ryuji, and Zuika was there too. The four of them just stood there, looking at each other. The atmosphere was a bit heavy. After a long time, Ruka spoke slowly. "Kusanagi, I have a favor to ask. Please take me as your student." When she made this request, her eyes were filled with determination. A few days ago, at the Mizuha family mansion, the two sisters were sitting outside. After a long silence, Ruka spoke slowly. "This catastrophe." Her sudden words startled Zuika. Ruka ignored her and continued. "It seems Kusanagi stopped this catastrophe." Hearing this, Zuika nodded. "Yes, Kusanagi defeated the ogre general with level 4 composite magic." Ruka looked at her in disbelief. "You said level 4 composite magic? That's a type of magic that even high-level sorcerers can't use. Do you know that?" "It's true," Zuika nodded firmly. Seeing her reaction, Ruka hesitated for a moment before saying, "Then it must be true. How could my Zuika lie?" Zuika was a bit surprised. "Why do you believe I wouldn't lie?" Ruka chuckled. "Because you've always been obedient since you were a child. I thought a child like that could never be a useless sorcerer, but it seems I was too harsh." Hearing her words, Zuika suddenly felt a little sad. She then stood up and declared, "I will definitely get stronger so you don't have to worry about me anymore. So please believe in me." Ruka was more determined than ever. Her reaction stunned Ruka, but she quickly smiled. "You've really grown up, Ruka." Hearing this, a hint of joy appeared in Ruka's eyes. Ruka didn't say anything. She was thinking about Minato. His power was too terrifying. It had surpassed that of a student. He might even be stronger than her father. Thinking this, Ruka looked up at Zuika and said, "Can you do me a favor?" Back to the present, Ruka was silently waiting for Minato's answer. She knew that if things continued like this, she could only become a high-level sorcerer. To get stronger, she needed Minato's help. Taking a deep breath, Ruka said sincerely, "I'm sorry for insulting and looking down on you. I'm truly sorry." She said she knew how selfish her request was, but she was willing to put aside her pride to ask him. Ruka's voice was now pleading. She bowed her head and said in a low voice, "Please allow me." But before she could finish, Minato cut her off flatly. "Okay." The answer was so sudden that Ruka was stunned. Minato repeated, "I said, I'll take you as my student." Ruka was still a bit confused. Why? Now it was Minato's turn. He asked, "What a strange question. You're the one who wanted it." Ruka quickly said, "That's true, but I did a lot of bad things to you." Minato shrugged. "You apologized, so I forgive you. Besides, you wanted me to accept your apology, that's all." Ruka was stunned. "You're answering so casually?" Just then, Ryuji chimed in, "Then me too." Minato didn't object. "All right, teaching one or two more won't make a difference." Seeing Ruka still confused, Zuika explained, "That's the kind of person he is, sister." Ruka looked at Minato and thought to herself, "You're a strange kid." A little later, at the Magic Academy's meeting room, Minato and Zuika didn't know why they were summoned here. In front of them were Inspector Sugo and Sergeant Karen. They were bowing to Minato and said sincerely, "First, please allow us to thank you. If it weren't for you, both the civilians and us would have been wiped out." Minato was at a loss. "You've been thanking me since the interrogation. I think that's enough. Is there something else?" Sugo nodded. "The investigation into the catastrophe is over, but there are still some things that interest us." Minato was surprised. "Some things that interest you?" Sugo didn't hide his purpose. "Kusanagi, you awakened your sorcerer abilities after a traffic accident, right? The people around you also testified to that, so there's no mistake. But after investigating, I heard someone say that after the accident, you were like a completely new person." Hearing this, Minato was stunned, his eyes filled with vigilance. Sugo didn't notice and continued, "Your personality changed, and your power grew abnormally strong, even strong enough to defeat an ogre general." The more he spoke, the more confused the people here became. Zuika couldn't help but ask, "Wait a minute, what are you implying?" Sugo seemed to realize his mistake and muttered, "Let me rephrase the question." He asked if he knew the name Black Sorcerer. Both Minato and Zuika were stunned. What did that Black Sorcerer have to do with anything? Sugo slowly explained, "He's a sorcerer who has taken down stray magic beasts and helped civilians under the cover of night. This video has been spreading all over the internet. Haven't you seen it? He then showed the video to the two of them. Karen, on the side, seemed to have understood something, but Zuika didn't. She frowned and asked, "What does this have to do with Kusanagi?" Sugo explained, because the two of them have some similarities in both physique and age. He said the Black Sorcerer was rumored to be a pretty famous sorcerer, but his magic didn't match. Not to mention, the time he started acting matched the time Minato was discharged from the hospital. The instructor sitting on the side heard Sugo's words, his face turning pale. He seemed very worried. Karen didn't say a word, while Sugo kept talking about how using magic in the city without a license was illegal. Because this had attracted too much attention, the police had to intervene. Zuika, hearing that he would be severely punished, looked at Minato with a worried expression. Sugo also looked at him intently and said coldly, "If you admit everything, we promise to do everything we can to reduce your punishment. So please answer honestly. Are you the Black Sorcerer?" "No," Minato confidently shook his head. Hearing this, Sugo smiled. He said cheerfully, "I see. So you're not him. That's good." Soon, Sugo and Corinne stood up to leave. "Thank you for your time. We'll be going now." As the two of them quickly left, Sugo recalled Minato's reaction. He wasn't even a little flustered. If he really was the Black Sorcerer, he must have a lot of guts. On the other hand, Karen was almost certain that Minato was that sorcerer. Both his aura and his voice were identical. Could it be that his secret actions at night were purely to save people? She couldn't tell Sugo about Minato's true identity. Although this could be considered a failure as a police officer, he was a good person who had saved her. So, the two police officers were in two opposing states. Sugo wanted to find out the identity hidden behind Minato, while Karen wanted to hide it. Elsewhere, after the conversation in the meeting room, Minato and Zuika went to class. The teacher stood at the front and announced, "These are Kusanagi and Mizuha. They will be members of our class from today. Please help them out." Because of his feat of defeating the Ogre General, Minato was warmly welcomed. As soon as he sat down, he was surrounded by a crowd of people asking him questions. Of course, with her status, Zuika also faced a similar situation, making it a bit difficult for her to cope. Seeing the S-class students surrounding the two of them, the teacher couldn't help but say, "Everyone, please settle down. Class has already started." Minato found it really annoying. He was interrogated from the start of class until the break. This was exactly why he didn't want to stand out too much. Minato took the opportunity to escape during the break, but someone called him back. He turned around, curious. It was the pink-haired girl who had been saved by Minato from the magic beasts. She looked at him timidly and said, "Kusanagi, can you come with me for a moment?" A little later, on the academy's rooftop, Minato was truly at a loss. This place again? Is it a trend now to call people up to the school rooftop whenever you want to talk to them? Surprisingly, Zuika was also there. She just wanted to find a place to practice without being discovered, but she didn't expect Minato to be there. And he was with some strange girl. What were they doing here? The pink-haired girl stood in front of Minato and asked hesitantly, "Do you remember me?" Minato shook his head apologetically. "Sorry, I don't." The pink-haired girl wasn't surprised. She said in a low voice, "I'm the one you saved during the recent catastrophe." Only then did Minato remember. He nodded. "Oh right, I remember that." The girl's cheeks instantly turned red. She lowered her head and said timidly, "During the practical class, I was also attacked by monsters and was saved by someone using magic. That was you, wasn't it, Kusanagi?" Minato remembered that he had just acted on impulse during that practical class. But the girl was very grateful. "Thank you for saving my life twice." Minato shook his head. "Don't be like that. I just did what I could." Even though he said that, the girl still said shyly, "You're so cool, Kusanagi." At the same time, Zuika was trying to eavesdrop on their conversation but couldn't hear anything. Just then, the pink-haired girl suddenly shouted, "Kusanagi, I like you. Please go out with me." Zuika was instantly stunned. A confession? Even the person being confessed to, Minato, was equally panicked. Seeing him not answer, the pink-haired girl continued firmly, "I'm not really good at anything, but I'll try to improve myself. So please let me be your girlfriend, Kusanagi." Minato stood there, stunned, without saying anything. Just when the girl thought he wouldn't answer, he suddenly spoke, "Thank you for liking me." The pink-haired girl was overjoyed, but her happiness didn't last long. Minato said apologetically, "But I'm sorry. I really don't have time to think about dating right now. There's something I have to do." Hearing this, The pink-haired girl lowered her head and muttered, "I understand." But she quickly looked up, her expression as bright as before. "Thank you for being honest with me. I think I can move on from these feelings now." With that, she turned and left the rooftop. Zuika had tried to hide behind the wall, but Minato still found her. He said, "And how long are you going to hide there, Zuika?" Zuika was startled. Taking a deep breath, she peeked her head out and said shyly, "I thought I had hidden my mana well." Minato pouted. "Your control is terrible. Your mana is leaking everywhere. This is the second time. Do you like stalking people?" Zuika retorted, "I just happened to overhear. It's not like I did it on purpose. By the way, why did you reject her? She's pretty cute, right?" Minato pouted, "I'm not thinking about that right now." He then turned and left, leaving Zuika standing there, bewildered. What Minato meant was that the age gap between them was too big, even though physically they were in the same year. Zuika watched him go and muttered, "I see. So you're not going to date anyone, right?" But she suddenly realized something. Why did she feel so relieved hearing Minato say that? Zuika thought as she followed Minato downstairs, "He's not going to date anyone?" While she was thinking, Minato suddenly turned around. This made Zuika freeze on the spot. Minato said indifferently, "Try to control your mana more often. You're still too clueless." Only then did Zuika snap out of it. She pouted, "I know, you don't have to keep saying it." She would train hard to get stronger until the day Minato acknowledged her. That night, as usual, Minato went out to check. The number of monsters showed no sign of decreasing. Even though the catastrophe was over, was this a sign of another wave of catastrophes being updated? Just then, a loud scream suddenly echoed in the darkness. "Help!" It was a girl's voice. Behind her was a sorcerer chasing her. He said, "There's no one around at this hour to save you," but there was. Minato stood in front of the girl. This panicked the sorcerer. Before he could even compose himself, Minato had punched him in the stomach. The guy went flying. Minato looked at him and thought, "An amateur sorcerer who likes to do bad things. His close combat skills are terrible. He must have never encountered another sorcerer before." The girl who was saved looked at him gratefully, but she soon recognized the person in front of her. She exclaimed in shock, "Is it really you, the black sorcerer?" But before she could finish, Minato had disappeared, despite her shouts to stop him. Minato used magic to move away. Black sorcerer? The students at school and that Sugo guy also mentioned it. It seems they're really talking about me, but why am I suddenly so famous? The next morning, on the rooftop of the academy building, Minato and the three of them had gathered. He frowned and asked, "That Sugo guy mentioned it before, right? An amateur sorcerer who likes to be mysterious at night. People are talking about him a lot, so I was just wondering why." Ryuji said while eating, "It's probably because he's a hot topic on the internet." Minato was surprised. What's the internet? This stunned the three of them, and they started whispering among themselves. Finally, Zuika explained, "The internet is an information system that covers the whole world. We can find everything on it, so information spreads at the speed of light." After listening to the explanation, Minato finally understood. Ryuji took out his phone and explained, "You can also access it with your phone. You have one, right? Try opening Google or something." Minato fumbled around, and finally, he did it. He exclaimed excitedly, "I did it." Zuika and Ryuji clapped along, "You did it." Minato pouted, "What's so great about this?" Ruka, seeing them act so childishly, couldn't help but sigh in frustration. She cut them off sternly. "By the way, you promised to help us train. When do we start?" Minato said cheerfully, "We can start right after school today. Since you all taught me how to use a smartphone and this thing called the internet, I'll do my best to help you all." Hearing this, Zuika suddenly felt a chill. It seemed more ominous than promising. Just as she thought, that afternoon after school, the four of them went to Zuka's mansion to train. Before long, all three of them had collapsed. Minato shook his head in frustration. "Come on! We haven't even warmed up yet. You have to put your all into it, as if your lives depend on it." These words seemed to hit a sore spot for the three of them. They all stood up. Each of them said firmly, "I can still take it. Don't underestimate us." Only then did Minato nod with satisfaction. "That's more like it. Now, attack me." Immediately, the three of them rushed toward Minato. Elsewhere, near the Tokyo Tower, a strange phenomenon had occurred. A nearby observer panicked. "Incredible! It looked normal just a moment ago. What's going on?" The scene before them made them tremble with fear. Because magic beasts had appeared in droves near the Tokyo Tower? Elsewhere, at Ruka's mansion, the three of them had quickly been defeated by Minato. Seeing this, Minato asked, "What's wrong? Giving up already?" "Not yet, take this!" The three of them stood up and attacked Minato together. But Minato just needed to create a protective barrier to avoid all of it. Not only that, he also used magic to flick the foreheads of Zuika and Ryuji, causing them pain. At the same time, Zuika took the opportunity to ambush Minato from behind, exclaiming triumphantly, "An opening!" "Not really," Minato smiled and dodged to the side, avoiding Zuika's attack. Zuika was shocked. He dodged it? Before she could compose herself, another beam of mana flicked her forehead. The three of them were once again defeated by Minato. He sighed, "All right, let's take a break." With his words, the three of them went to sit down and drink water. After just a short while, the three of them were drenched in sweat. Ryuji wiped his sweat and said, "But you seem too strong." Ruka also agreed, to the point that I, the top student in the academy, can't even touch a single hair. Zuika sighed, "That's right. This guy is no longer on the level of a normal student." She then gave Minato a meaningful look. Her gaze made Minato feel a bit annoyed. Tired of explaining over and over, he decided to say it once and for all. "I almost logged out in that accident, and when I regained consciousness, I also got this power. As for why, I don't know, so don't ask anymore." Ruka frowned and reasoned, "So that near-death experience of yours was what triggered your power." Seeing their reaction, Minato sighed in relief. These people were as easy to fool as children. He could tell from their faces that he had tricked them. But Minato didn't know that Zuika didn't believe him. She thought he probably had a reason to hide the truth, and since he had gone to such lengths to keep it a secret, it was best not to pry further. Minato looked at the three of them sitting there silently. He really thought they were all too gullible. A little later, they finally finished training. Everyone went home. Ryuji said as he walked, "The training was great." Minato, who was also there, couldn't help but say, "You're pretty tough too." Ryuji smiled. "That's because I always train myself. But now I'm starving. I have to go home and cook for the kids." Minato was surprised. "You cook for yourself? Even though you look so big?" Ryuji looked at him, annoyed. "What's that supposed to mean, kid?" The two of them continued to talk as they walked. Ryuji asked, "Do you always eat out?" Minato shook his head. "No, I mostly eat instant noodles." Ryuji was shocked. "Instant noodles? That's all?" Minato shrugged. "The world has become very convenient." Ryuji looked at him fiercely, his tone a bit annoyed. "How can your body handle it if you keep eating a bunch of food with no nutrition?" Seeing his strong reaction, Minato was annoyed. "You sound like my dad." But Ryuji didn't care and put his arm around Minato's shoulder, pulling him along. "All right, let's go to my place. I'll treat you to a meal." Minato really wanted to refuse, but this guy was too stubborn. So in the end, the two of them went to Ryuji's house. Minato, a full-time introvert, was now being clung to by three kids. He didn't know what to do. As for Ryuji, he naturally took on the responsibility of cooking. A big guy like him wearing a bear-shaped apron, bringing out 2 plates of food, Ryuji said apologetically. "Sorry, I had to make you watch the kids." "No worries," Minato smiled and then used magic to make the kids float in the air. Seeing this, Ryuji was at a loss. "That's what I'm worried about. This crazy kid, don't use magic in the house." He put the 2 plates of food on the table and grumbled, "I've never heard of anyone using magic to play with children." Minato didn't care and looked down at the little girl beside him, smiling. "I got scolded." The 3 kids continued to play around Minato, to the point that Ryuji had to say, "But it's surprising. I mean, you're not bad at watching kids." Minato suddenly remembered his past life. During the catastrophes, many children had died. After a long silence, Minato sighed. Children are the future of the country. Hearing this, Ryuji was annoyed. "You sound like my grandpa talking to me." "Shut up," Minato snorted, then went back to playing with the 3 kids. Soon, dinner was ready. The kids saw the food and excitedly started eating. Minato also happily ate with everyone. After just the first bite, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Delicious." How long had it been since Minato had a proper, home-cooked meal? He had been so immersed in protecting the country that he had forgotten to take care of himself. Thinking this, Minato asked, "By the way, where are your parents?" Ryuji shook his head. "I don't have a dad, and my mom works until late at night. So I take care of the housework and babysit these kids for her." When I have time, I work part-time. Hearing this, Minato couldn't help but say, "You're so busy." Ryuji chuckled. "It's hard, but I don't hate it." "I see. The harder things are, the more you want to do them, right?" Minato nodded in understanding. Ryuji admitted it without hesitation, not forgetting to flex his muscles. Minato couldn't help but think, all brawn, no brains. After the meal, Ryuji and Minato played with the three kids for a while before going to bed. Ryuji lay next to Minato and whispered, "Sorry, you had to stay over because of the kids' childish request." Minato shook his head. "It's fine. It's nice to do this once in a while." Ryuji smiled gratefully. "Thank you." Minato waved it off. "I didn't do anything for you to say that." But Ryuji shook his head. "No, it's about Ruka. She seems more lively now." "I think it's all thanks to you, kid." Minato was surprised. "Don't tell me it's some kind of romance thing." Thinking out loud, Minato frowned and asked, "Do you like her?" Ryuji couldn't help but burst out laughing. "What? Me and Ruka? Never. Actually, we're both outcasts, so we just naturally stick together." Minato was surprised. Outcasts? Just like you. The next day, Minato and Ryuji went to school together. When they reached the school gate, the Mizuha sisters were already waiting. Seeing them, Suika said with annoyance, "Seriously, you're late." Ryuji quickly explained, "Sorry, Kusanagi wouldn't wake up." The Mizuha sisters were shocked. "You two had a sleepover? Or were you training without us?" Minato was a bit confused by it. But just then, two people approached from a distance. It was Inspector Sugo and Sergeant Karen. Sugo looked at Minato and said, "Can we have a moment of your time, Kusanagi?" Minato sighed in frustration. Again, Karen said apologetically, "Sorry to keep bothering you. This time, it's really urgent." She said that magic beasts had suddenly appeared and were currently surrounding the Tokyo Tower. It was possible that this was related to the catastrophe, so they wanted his cooperation. Hearing this, Minato frowned. "But I'm just a student." Sugo shook his head and said seriously, "You single-handedly stopped a catastrophe. From that moment on, you were no longer considered a student. To be honest, we can't handle this situation." Minato looked at him and asked, "Is it okay for a police officer to say that?" Sugo's face was extremely sincere, his tone pleading. "This means we've really been cornered. Kusanagi, please cooperate with us." Minato hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "If you don't have a problem with it, then okay, I'll lend you my strength." Sugo was shocked. Minato was really at a loss. Although he didn't want to stand out anymore, the situation didn't allow it. Sugo, of course, didn't know what Minato was thinking. Hearing him agree, he was immediately overjoyed. "Of course, you'll also receive a worthy reward. And don't worry, we'll also contact the academy for you." The three of them behind him also wanted to help. They all said, "We want to help too. We can support you from the back. We want to participate too." Sugo sighed in frustration. "Thank you for the offer, but with the current situation, you can't help much," Ruka retorted. "We're all top students." But before she could finish, Sugo cut her off coldly. "You're always at the top in school, but we're talking about a life or death battle." He then looked at the three of them and asked seriously, "Is there anyone who is confident that their abilities can match Kusanagi's?" This silenced the three of them. No one could say anything more. Seeing them silent, Sugo sighed and said, "You should go back to the academy. Let's go, Kusanagi." He then led the way to the car, ready to leave. Before leaving, Minato suddenly called out, "Hey," which startled the three of them. Minato smiled. "You have to try to catch up to me." The three of them were stunned by his words. But they quickly replied in unison, "Of course," then turned and went back to the academy. A little later, at the police headquarters, in the meeting room of the Emergency Countermeasures Leadership Department, the leader sat at the center and said seriously, "Hundreds of magic beasts have appeared near the Tokyo Tower. We need to come up with a thorough solution to this problem before they become a threat to the citizens." He said he had also requested the help of a student who played a key role in the recent catastrophe at the Magic Academy. Then he invited Minato to stand up. Minato stood up when he heard his name. Seeing the uniform Minato was still wearing, the police officers below started whispering, all of them contemptuous. Karen felt a bit awkward for Minato. She really couldn't stand it anymore. Just then, Sugo leaned into the microphone and cleared his throat. Everyone immediately focused on him. Sugo said fiercely, "Kusanagi Minato is the student who single-handedly stopped the catastrophe at the Magic Academy. I witnessed it up close. No one sitting here can compare to him. He continued to praise Minato to the high heavens and said he believed that cooperating with him was necessary, so they should treat him as a partner, not a student. These words still didn't quell the dissatisfaction of the useless police officers below. They still saw Minato as a snot-nosed kid. Seeing them still making noise, the leader ordered, "Our mission remains unchanged. Whether an outsider participates or not, we must immediately eliminate the magic beasts. Everyone, return to your units." With his words, everyone quickly left. Some of them still pointed and sneered at Minato as they left. Sugo waited for everyone to leave before running to Minato and saying apologetically, "Sorry about that, Kusanagi." Minato shook his head. "It's fine. It must be annoying for them to have to cooperate with a student." Seeing his calm reaction, Sugo couldn't help but say, "You're really mature. Compared to him, what are you doing, Sanana?" Karen jumped at being mentioned, trembling. "I was so scared I couldn't say anything." Seeing the two of them so concerned, Minato smiled reassuringly. "Please don't worry about it. I don't care." Karen really thought he was like an angel. After that, they got into a car and headed to the Tokyo Tower. Minato sat in the back and asked, "What's our fighting force like?" Sugo slowly replied, 80 sorcerers, most of them mid-level, with only a few high-level ones." Minato frowned in thought. Mid-level sorcerers could use level 2 magic, and high-level ones could use level 3. While he was thinking, Sugo hesitated and said, "This might sound pathetic, but since you can use level 4 composite magic, you're our ace in the hole." Minato looked at him and asked, "And the battle plan?" Sugo said in a low voice, "In this case, the battle is just about using magic to overwhelm the beasts. It's not really a battle plan. If it were just ogre soldiers and magic beasts, it wouldn't be too bad, but creatures higher than the ogre general would be more intelligent." So Minato thought they should also prepare for that case. Just rushing in couldn't be called a battle plan. Thinking this, he said, "From what I see, we don't have any support equipment either, right?" Sugo said helplessly, "We usually go on missions in clothes that are easy to move in." Minato frowned. "But there used to be anti-magic beast equipment, right?" Sugo nodded. "That's true, but it's rarely used now because there isn't much left." The more Minato heard, the more silent he became. How could that be? There used to be plenty. Even though he knew that magic and sorcerers in this era were not the same, what the hell had happened in the last 50 years? Sugo saw Minato sitting silently in the back through the rearview mirror. He seemed to be thinking about something too. A little later, at the Tokyo Tower area, which was occupied by magic beasts. The police car finally arrived. After getting out of the car, Minato saw the scene before him and couldn't help but say, "The catastrophe hasn't happened yet, but the number of beasts is abnormally high." He was wondering what was going on. Until his expert eyes trace the flow of mana in the earth, and he realizes this isn't just some random monster spawn point. Back in his original era, before the Cataclysm, every sorcerer worth their salt knew about Tokyo's hidden spiritual grid. Minato remembers that the Tokyo Tower isn't just a retro tourist trap. It stands right in the middle of Shiba Park, directly adjacent to the ancient Zojo-ji Temple. Historically speaking, this temple isn't just a pretty old building. It was the chief spiritual center of the Tokugawa shogunate, literally housing the burial tombs of 6 Tokugawa shoguns. We're talking about the undisputed rulers of Japan for over 250 years. The ground here is practically saturated in centuries of concentrated historical ambition, bloodlines, and human energy. But there's an even deeper, darker layer to this location. According to ancient Onmyodo folklore, the traditional Japanese esoteric cosmology Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, was meticulously designed on a massive, invisible web of dragon veins or spiritual ley lines. Zojo-ji was deliberately constructed in this exact spot to guard the Ura Kimon, the inauspicious backdemon gate, essentially acting as a mythical ward to seal away evil spirits encroaching from the southwest. And the Tokyo Tower itself? When it was erected back in 1958, a significant chunk of its massive steel framework was actually forged from scrap metal taken from US. Battle tanks heavily damaged during the Korean War. So, if you put it all together, you've got a massive 332-meter steel antenna forged from the physical weapons of real-world historical bloodshed, standing as a giant magical lightning rod right on top of an ancient mythological demon-sealing gate. For decades, it's been acting as an amplifier, radiating both documented historical trauma and localized spiritual power. Minato connects the dots instantly. The magic beasts aren't just aimlessly wandering around. They are intentionally flocking here to gorge themselves on the raw, corrupted mana leaking from the ruptured dragon veins beneath the shogunate tombs. It's a literal all-you-can-eat buffet for high-tier monsters. This geographical nightmare explains perfectly why the horde is mutating and multiplying so fast. Before Minato can even try to explain this massive spiritual ticking time bomb to the normal humans around him, the police officers who saw this scene turned pale and trembled. Is this for real? The number is even higher than in the report. And what surprised them even more was that the Ogre General was also there. How could they possibly win? We should ask for help from private organizations or even noble sorcerers. Sugo sighed in frustration. We've already sent a request for help, but they can't get here right away. Recently, magic beasts and illegal sorcerers have been appearing all over the place, so they don't have time to care about us. Hearing this, the police officers panicked. Does that mean we have to take down all these beasts ourselves? This is like a suicide mission. Sugo looked at Minato and asked, Kusanagi, can you do it? Yeah, I can. Minato nodded without hesitation. But the police officers were not convinced. Stop being arrogant, kid. Don't try to be a hero here. How can a kid like you stand a chance against them? Minato ignored them and said nonchalantly, but something's strange. This made them confused. Just then, the magic beasts suddenly started moving. The sky, which was blue, was suddenly dyed blood red. Karen saw this and panicked. The sky is a catastrophe. Immediately, emergency announcements were made. An unprecedentedly large-scale catastrophe had enveloped the entire country. The people all over Japan were in a state of panic. Minato looked at the monsters below. In contrast to his calmness, Sugo's group looked extremely grim. The police officers who saw this for the first time panicked. Another catastrophe? How can something so ridiculous happen? Minato was lost in his own thoughts. Catastrophes usually happen naturally. But it seemed the beasts from before were the cause of this one. In just 50 years, they had found a way to cause a catastrophe? Seeing the situation was not good, someone suggested, we can't handle this without reinforcements. We need to regroup first. While Sugo was wondering what to do, Minato suddenly said, they're moving. Just as he said, the beasts were heading toward the city. The police officers present were even more panicked. They started to panic. Some wanted to fight, while others wanted to retreat. Seeing this, Minato sneered in contempt. The police looked so cowardly. This made a police officer angry. What did you say, kid? How can we deal with a fortress of beasts like that? We can, Minato said with a confident smile, then jumped down without hesitation. His target was the horde of beasts below. Soon, he landed in the center of them. Minato was like a dancer among 7 magic beasts and ogre soldiers. Seeing him, the beast went into a frenzy. From above, the police officers saw this and panicked. That kid's going to die. Get out of there. But as soon as they finished speaking, a powerful magic blast suddenly appeared with a strong gust of wind. This power stunned the police officers. Sugo was equally surprised, but more than that, he was happy. With a single wave of his hand, the low-level beasts around were all killed by Minato. The ogre soldiers saw this and were furious. Without hesitation, they all summoned their magic to attack Minato. In an instant, a barrage of magic shot toward him but hit an invisible barrier, being completely blocked. Perhaps a magic barrier was enough. After all, there were many outsiders watching Minato. He just created a barrier for peace of mind. Then, he used magic to kill the ogre soldiers in front of him. Sugo was more and more shocked. What kind of monstrous power is that? So Minato can use multiple magic attributes? Just as I thought, it could only be him. Thinking this, Sugo immediately shouted, "Follow him!" Karen quickly ran after him. "I'll support him too!" The other police officers were still trembling like leaves, hesitating to advance. But they quickly regained their composure and ran after Sugo. Although their magic wasn't as strong as Minato's, handling low-level beasts was no problem. Minato, at the front, saw them starting to fight and smiled with satisfaction. Not bad at all. But soon, the Ogre General appeared before them. Its giant body scared the police officers. They were like insects to it. Only a legendary sorcerer could defeat it. But just then, A water snake suddenly appeared and swallowed the ogre general whole. Minato said nonchalantly, "I'll take care of this one. The rest is up to you." When the water wave dissipated, a large crater was left on the ground. This horrified the police officers. That kid just beat it? Such terrifying power. Sugo quickly reminded everyone, "We have to keep killing the beasts until the boss appears. Leave the ogre general and any stronger species to Kusanagi." Minato, at the front, was killing ogre generals while thinking, 60 years ago, a worldwide catastrophe occurred, the first one. After that, smaller catastrophes began to appear one after another to destroy the world. If the past 60 years were to repeat themselves, then this catastrophe would spread worldwide. But this time, Minato was here too. He wouldn't let them wipe out humanity. At the same time, where Karin was healing the injured, an ogre soldier appeared beside her, panicking her. It raised its hand, about to crush Karin on the spot. In a life-or-death moment, Minato appeared in time and killed the ogre soldier. Behind him, Karin saw Minato's steady back. Just like that time, the time the black sorcerer had saved her. After killing the ogre soldier, Minato turned to Karin and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Only then did Karin regain her senses. Yeah, thank you, Kusanagi." Minato looked at her and thought, the situation was just like last time. Did she figure it out? Just as he guessed, Karin had indeed realized. She was wondering why Minato chose to become the black sorcerer and why he was so ridiculously strong. But Karin thought Minato would hate her if she asked him such questions. Thinking this, she suddenly felt she was acting inappropriately. He was a student. She shouldn't have such improper thoughts. While she was panicking, a magic beast attacked. Luckily, Minato pulled Karin aside and then used magic to attack the beast. Karin looked at him apologetically. "I'm sorry." "Stay close to me," Minato said in a low voice. It seems she can't use any offensive magic. Karin was a bit startled but quickly nodded. Okay, but she had a thought. Was Minato really a student? He was more mature than her. Just then, a terrifying scene unfolded. The police officers' faces turned pale, and they trembled. "What is that? I can't stop shaking." The ogre general was now enveloped in a huge amount of magic. Seeing this, Sugo panicked. A mutated ogre general? Why is such a high-level ogre general here? The other police officers were so scared their legs gave out and they fell to the ground, despairing. Impossible. I don't know if even a noble sorcerer can beat this thing. The only one who wasn't scared was Minato. He walked forward. Seeing this, the two police officers shouted a warning. "Are you crazy? Stop. No matter how strong you are, you don't stand a chance against that monster." But Minato just smiled at them and said confidently, "I can do it." This left the police officers speechless. But soon, the trembling in their bodies stopped. Karin was now silently praying that Minato could defeat the mutated ogre general. Sugo looked at Minato expectantly. He might be as strong as a noble sorcerer already. So, Minato defeating the mutated ogre general was not out of reach. Thinking this, Sugo grinned excitedly. "Now, show me your true power, Minato." To let Minato focus on dealing with the mutated ogre general, Sugo ordered everyone, "Focus all your efforts on eliminating the ogre soldiers." At the same time, Minato was looking at the mutated ogre general. He fell into a deep thought. Until now, he was standing face to face with it. While Minato was thinking, the mutated ogre general began to attack. A brilliant flame quickly shot toward Minato, but it just brushed past him and exploded behind him, filling the sky with smoke and fire. Seeing this, the police officers behind him exclaimed, "Just the first level. What kind of ridiculous power is this? These brutal monsters." At the same time, Minato stood there, unharmed, dusting off his shoulder. The mutated ogre general stared at him, its deep voice slowly echoing, "What are you?" Minato shrugged. "Just a normal student, at least for now." This confused the ogre general. While it was confused, the mana in Minato's body erupted fiercely. Seeing that powerful mana, the ogre general immediately felt a sense of danger. It muttered again, "Kill, strong human." Then, a large flame appeared in front of Minato. In the distance, the police officers saw this and panicked. Level 6? That's impossible. But Minato stood there calmly, thinking about what to do. Even if he dodged this attack or used a direct magic attack, the people behind him would be engulfed in the flames. At the same time, the magic beasts attacking the police officers behind him suddenly turned and directed their magic toward Minato. In an instant, A barrage of magic shot toward him, creating a terrifying scene. Sugo's face turned grim. They're cooperating? That's ridiculous. Karen was equally terrified and shouted, "Kusanagi, run!" But Minato stood there calmly. He single-handedly faced the barrage of magic coming at him. At the same time, the brilliant flame was also rushing toward him. But before it could touch Minato, a large water wave appeared. The flame was extinguished by the water. Not only that, the magic of the other beasts was also blocked by Minato, because before they could touch him, they hit an invisible barrier. This scene shocked the mutated ogre general. Minato looked at it and asked indifferently, "Are you done?" Even Sugo on the side was stunned. What the hell is this kid? Karen was no exception. She exclaimed in shock, "What just happened?" Sugo really felt it was beyond his imagination. Even seeing it with his own eyes, he couldn't believe it. Such a ridiculous thing was happening right before him. Karen also couldn't help but say, "Only a noble sorcerer can use level 6 magic. That's a special technique comparable to telekinesis. Kusanagi can do that?" Sugo muttered. "And what's even more surprising is that he can use a second magic at the same time. Usually, you can only use one type of magic at a time. You have to wait a while before using another one. But Minato used 2 different magics almost at the same time. This really surprised Sugo. Just one type was already so powerful. Using more than one at the same time, he really felt that Minato might have surpassed a noble sorcerer. The more Sugo spoke, the happier he became. His intuition couldn't be wrong. Minato was really the person he was looking for, a second Ichikami Minato. But Sugo didn't know that the current Minato was the reincarnation of that great sorcerer. Just then, the ogre general frantically rushed toward Minato. Minato wasn't flustered at all. He said calmly, "This place is getting boring. Let's go somewhere more fun." This confused the ogre general. Before it could compose itself, it was sent flying into the air by an invisible force. It was Minato who had used magic to send it flying, but it quickly used magic to stabilize itself in the air. Soon, he also flew up and stood opposite the ogre general. He smirked. "It seems you can use magic too, huh?" The ogre general looked at Minato, its voice filled with evil. "If you don't want to suffer any more campaigns..." But before it could finish, Minato cut it off coldly. "I don't give a damn about your pathetic tactics." Because up here, he didn't need to hold back anymore. Seeing him not cooperating, the ogre general attacked. But Minato easily dodged its attack. Of course, the ogre general didn't give up and attacked again relentlessly. This forced Minato to slide back. Taking this opportunity, it summoned its magic again. Minato frowned and looked up at the sky. A fireball had appeared, its intense heat spreading through the air. At the same time, the ogre general had closed in on him. Without hesitation, it struck down fiercely. This sent Minato falling from the sky. The ogre general looked down from the sky. With a loud bang, the ground was filled with smoke and dust. But when the smoke and dust cleared, it was shocked, because Minato was still standing there, completely unharmed. The ogre general couldn't believe it. How is that possible? Minato, of course, wouldn't explain to it. He shot up from the ground again. In an instant, he appeared in front of the ogre general and said, "It seems magic doesn't work anymore. The only way is close combat, but that's useless too." At this point, Minato's eyes became determined. Without hesitation, he rushed toward the ogre general. Minato said, "You can't defeat me." In an instant, his powerful fist struck down. This sent the ogre general flying far away. It couldn't believe it. Impossible. A human's fist can't work. It then used magic to stabilize itself in the air. It was now at the peak of its rage. It shouted angrily, "You damn bastard! What are you?" Minato didn't answer and just smiled. "You thought I could only use magic? Then I'll show you my exclusive technique." With that, Minato smiled wickedly. Soon, a colorful mana aura appeared around him. In an instant, it erupted in the air, a power that seemed to want to swallow everything. Seeing this, the ogre general panicked. What kind of terrifying magic is this? Even Sugo and Karen were no exception. "What's wrong? This kid, is something happening in the air?" Minato ignored everyone's reaction and continued to unleash his mana. He closed his eyes, seeming to want to gather all the mana in the air. When he felt it was enough, Minato slowly opened his eyes. His face was now filled with confidence, and his aura had changed. The ogre general was getting more and more scared, but it still stubbornly shouted, Even if you cover your whole body with magic, a human's attack is useless against us. Then just try it, Minato chuckled, then appeared in front of the Ogre General in an instant. In a flash, the Ogre General panicked. It wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Minato's fist had already struck down. Not only that, he also launched a series of punches at the Ogre General. Minato's momentum was too fierce, step by step, forcing the Ogre General into a disadvantage. This stunning scene made Sugo not believe his eyes. He stammered, "That kid is overwhelming the Ogre General in a fistfight? How is that possible? How can a human's punch damage a magic creature? And not only that, Minato can also hurt it with magic. This is really beyond imagination." In a flash, the Ogre General's body was covered in wounds, making it frustrated. Why? How can a human's attack work? Minato said indifferently, "Normal punches or weapons are meaningless against you, but if you pour a large amount of mana into it, it's different. Attacking it with my body covered in mana is a combination of magic and martial arts." Minato said it could be called composite magic art for easier understanding. The Ogre General was getting angrier and angrier. It roared, "A puny human surpassing me? That's impossible!" Soon, the Ogre General frantically rushed to attack Minato. But Minato easily dodged its attack. Then he countered, punching it in the stomach. A single punch directly pierced the Ogre General's stomach, sending it falling to the ground like a broken kite. Its body fell into the center of the magic beasts. When it was defeated, the sky returned to its original blue color. Seeing this, everyone immediately cheered. "The catastrophe has stopped. That kid did it." Sugo saw everyone cheering and quickly reminded them, "Everyone, don't let your guard down. Clean up the remaining magic beasts." Minato looked down from above and smiled in relief. The rest can be left to the police. With that thought, he quickly withdrew the mana around his body. Before long, it had completely disappeared, and Minato had returned to normal. Thinking of something, he couldn't help but joke, "It's been a while since I've used composite magic art. I'm a bit rusty." Soon, Minato landed on the ground. But the scene before him startled him a bit. The police had finished dealing with the magic beasts and were now standing in a very formal line. Seeing him return, Sugo immediately said clearly, "We sincerely appreciate your hard work. In the attack on the boss just now, on behalf of the police department, I would like to thank you for your cooperation. We salute you, Mr. Kusanagi Minato." As he finished speaking, all the police officers saluted Minato with the most formal ceremony. From that day on, catastrophes began to strike all over the world. Thanks to the timely response of the police and noble sorcerers, the catastrophes officially stopped. Tensions rose regarding the catastrophes, with a barrage of criticism from the public aimed at the government and the police, and constant expectations and disappointments directed at the sorcerers. As public tension continued to escalate, someone said this, "If it were the Black Sorcerer, it would be fine. The Black Sorcerer could protect us." And from then on, there was a wave of support for the Black Sorcerer on the internet. But no matter what was on the internet, Minato was in trouble now. Someone had leaked the news that Minato had participated in the battle to stop the catastrophe, and the students in his class once again surrounded him, asking questions. Minato found it really annoying. Just dealing with them was more tiring than killing the Ogre General. Zuika, sitting beside him, saw him constantly sighing and couldn't help but worry. Just then, the teacher entered the class. She stood at the front and said seriously, "Today we will discuss the recent catastrophe." The students below listened to the teacher constantly talk about protecting the country in the future, their faces all becoming grave. The teacher didn't notice and continued, "So we can't rule out the possibility that you will be summoned one day. So please be ready at all times, although there is already one student in the class with experience." She then glanced at Minato sitting below. But just then, Karen suddenly burst in. The teacher ran over, confused. "Wait a minute, what's wrong with you guys?" Karen said urgently, "We're the police. We have orders from the police headquarters. Kusanagi, we're sorry to say this, but we hope you can lend us your strength again." Hearing this, Minato couldn't help but sigh. They really didn't care about their image as police officers. Where had their dignity gone? But what was with the looks from the people around? Stop with those weird, worshipful looks. I really don't like it. But there was no other choice. Minato could only agree. He stood up from his seat and went to Karen's side. "Please explain the situation quickly." Karen nodded. Besides the catastrophe, magic beasts have also started to appear all over the world. Illegal sorcerers and underground organizations are also more active than ever. We're currently severely understaffed. And that was why they had come to bother Minato again. She sighed apologetically. I'm really sorry to bother you again and again, but there's really no one as reliable as you, Kusanagi. Minato ignored her and took out his phone. Then please contact me first next time. Only then did Karen realize her mistake. Sorry, I'll learn from my mistake next time. Soon, she got Minato's contact information and was stunned for a long time. Minato looked at her and said seriously, so what do you want me to do now? Only then did Karen snap out of it. We want to ask you to help clean up the magic beasts rampaging in Harajuku. Minato nodded. Okay, I understand. Karen saw that he wanted to go there and suggested, we'll go there by car. But before she could finish, she saw Minato brush past her. He had used magic to run ahead. He said indifferently, that won't be fast enough. I'll go ahead. Seeing Minato disappear in a flash, the police officers behind him were stunned. That was too fast. A little later, in the Harajuku area, the place had become a ruin. The tall buildings had collapsed into piles of rubble. Inside, 2 children were trapped. The younger one hugged his older brother and trembled, Brother! The older child, although very scared, still held his younger brother tightly and said firmly, It's okay. I'll protect you. Just then, a magic beast lunged at the 2 children. Although terrified, the older child grabbed his younger brother's hand and ran. But because he was scared, the younger brother tripped and fell. The magic beast's sharp teeth were getting closer and closer. The 2 children were almost in a desperate situation. In a life-or-death moment, a beam of mana shot from a distance, killing the magic beast. The one who acted was Minato. He had just arrived and saw this scene, and he helped without hesitation. The 2 children were stunned to see him kill the beast with just a casual wave of his hand. Minato slowly walked over to the 2 children and smiled in, Praise! You were brave! That was great! But then he saw a doll on the ground. He picked it up and asked, Is this yours? The younger brother immediately replied, Yes. Minato could clearly see the admiration in the child's eyes. He couldn't help but smile. Finally, Minato spoke slowly, I'll protect both of you, then ran back into the battlefield. The 2 children bowed to thank him, but he had already disappeared in a flash. Did he hear them? The younger brother hugged the doll tightly, his face filled with adoration. On Minato's side, he had gone deep into the city. The battle in the city was more troublesome than the one at the academy. Because there were still people fleeing, he couldn't use magic bullets. Minato could distinguish between beast magic and human magic, but he couldn't detect people without mana. The only way to save everyone was to patrol the area. While Minato was thinking, the magic police team had also arrived. The leader shouted a reminder to his comrades, Focus on killing the magic beasts! Leave the rescue of civilians to the firefighters and the army. Just then, a police officer noticed Minato. He looked up and waved, Hey, Kusanagi! Minato looked down and remembered that this police officer was the one who had appeared during the disaster at the Tokyo Tower. Recognizing a familiar face, Minato immediately jumped down. The police officer ran over and said, So you came to help? That really helps a lot. Minato cut to the chase, What's the situation? The police officer immediately replied, We still haven't rescued half of the civilians. The situation was so serious that they couldn't get to the east side. There were a lot of magic beasts in that area. Hearing this, Minato said, Then I'll go check that side of the city. He then ran off. The police officer quickly reminded him, There are also reports of illegal sorcerers there. Be careful. But he knew it was useless to worry about him. Thinking this, the police officer looked at his comrades behind him. Those who weren't at the Tokyo Tower disaster were seeing Minato kill magic beasts for the first time. They were extremely confused. Who is that young man? He wiped out the beasts in an instant. The police officer chuckled and said indifferently, Perhaps he only appears to us in times of chaos. Elsewhere, in the eastern part of the city, Minato was now using level 6 magic to kill a large number of magic beasts. But there was something on his mind. The appearance of a magic clan leader outside of a great calamity was something that should have been impossible even a few years ago. The beasts were getting more numerous, and they were also getting stronger. Things had gotten to a point where even Minato had trouble handling them. If he didn't start taking precautions now, things could get out of control. But saving people was the most important thing right now. Minato reached out his hand to the 2 people under the rubble and pulled them out. He then handed them over to the firefighters and ran off again. He had a few plans in mind, but he wasn't sure which one to choose. Thanks to Minato's help, many trapped civilians were saved. When the situation had stabilized a bit, Karen led her people over. Minato ignored them and continued to save people. Thanks to him, almost all the civilians in the city were saved. The police were extremely grateful and grabbed Minato's hand, smiling. "Thank you. You've been a great help, Kusanagi. Thanks to you, we've minimized casualties." Minato shook his head. "No, it's thanks to the police and firefighters. I only helped with simple things." The police officer was stunned by his reaction. After a long time, he bowed to Minato and said formally, "I'm truly sorry for what happened before because of our immaturity. I hope you won't hold it against us." Seeing them like this, Minato sighed in frustration. Don't worry too much about it. He was too mature, which made the others feel awkward. They could only keep thanking him. Karen also said gratefully, "Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for having to rely on Kusanagi all the time, even though you're just a student." Minato shook his head. "It's fine. I agreed to help." At this point, he suddenly became serious. "But what bothers me is not only their large numbers, but also their strength." Karen nodded in agreement. "Yes, we need to come up with a plan to deal with the beasts and the disaster." Senpai Sugo is also taking action, but